First down, Smith with running room. Abram Smith picking him up, puts him down. Abram Smith down inside the 10.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here we go. They fake it to Brown. Quick hitter. Oh, it's a missed opportunity. The ball's picked off. Russ Yeast has got it, and Kansas State takes advantage of a mistake.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
No, that's the first time we've seen a mistake, but it bounced right back up to Stroud. He'll throw it here, and it's a screen pass. Henderson breaks the tackle. Inside the 5, Henderson to the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here we go. Daniels, flushed. Daniels, end zone, caught! Kansas wins it! Jared Casey, the hero, and the Jayhawks find a way.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Now he'll run it with a block. Splits. Bohannon! Touchdown, Baylor!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this just gorgeous Friday afternoon. I went around the corner from our studio, 101 Elm. It's about a mile, perhaps, from McLean Stadium and maybe a couple of miles from the rest of the Baylor campus. And I-35, which runs down the spine of I-35, runs down the spine of the state of Texas all the way up into Oklahoma and God knows where. But I happened to go and took the wrong turn to go to a convenience store, and I looked at 35, and of course Craig has to come down there sometimes on his way. It was basically not a parking lot, but pretty close to it. And it's, you know what? It's going to be that way, and it's been that way, and it's going to continue to be that way. So good luck coming in and out of Waco, wherever you might be going.
Yeah, it doesn't help when all the side roads to try and alleviate that are all four-way stops with roundabouts, so that you just take side roads into further traffic hell, and there's just nothing to alleviate it. So that's basically the city right now. No good way to go anywhere. No good way to get downtown. And it's been going on now for a while. It's just it's really at its worst, though, because everything around is under construction and gone from a light to a four-way stop or what have you. So I saw somebody make a tweet yesterday.
Whoever makes stop signs is making a good living in Waco, Texas, or wherever they came from. Yeah.
I lost.
You saw a tweet yesterday.
I saw a tweet yesterday, and somebody had a picture of like some futuristic city and said this is what Waco should better look like, in 3 years. And they're right about that.
Like
should
the
be
Jetsons.
the Jetsons. Yeah.
There we go.
Exactly.
By the way, one NFL note that's of interest. Paul just told me this. Is Scotty B put this up in the chat room. Amari Cooper, hellacious wide receiver of the Cowboys, clutch receiver, tough receiver, is on the COVID list. Paul, does that mean he's out for the game against Kansas City?
It also means he's out for the game against Las
my
Vegas
God,
because it's on Thursday. You got to be out for 10 days when you've got a positive test, and so Amari Cooper is out for the foreseeable next 2 games, maybe 3, but at least the next 2 because the next one's on Thanksgiving Day, which is Thursday.
All right, so here who has checked in with us, most of them, Donnie Hand, Oklahoma State fan, Go Damn Pokes, the Bird's Word, Quack, Quack, Quack for Oregon, Eric Reckham, Brian Etheridge, see y'all tomorrow. Okay, good. I hope so. And Scotty B, happy Friday. Huge football game. Baylor and Kansas State up in Manhattan. Also from, let's see here, Flyover State fan. Go Pokes. Let's get this done. Cameron Love, you know what I wish I could hear the audio of the Longhorn radio announcers on that Kansas 2-point conversion. I actually heard Craig Way, and he's a pro, and he handled it just like you would think, with a little bit at the end of a slight disappointment, as you could imagine.
I didn't even think about listening to that call.
Yeah.
I definitely listened to some of the post game on the Horn, I guess, is their flagship, and yeah, it was a late game though, so there was like one guy doing, just like the one guy who got the 11 p.m. post game job. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't as electric as you might have thought. I think because it was so late that people were just so beaten down by it. But, yeah, I hadn't even thought about Craig Way. And like you said, he's a pro, so no surprise he handled it well.
From John Kelly, horns down. Paul. RH5 sounds like Sonny Dykes to TCU. And, of course, the coaching smoke is continuing throughout the country.
I have a friend who's a UT alum and Look, the night...
That's Sheik?
Yeah, Sheik, yeah. Sheik, the night of the championship game where Alabama beat them, he was as fired up as anybody I've ever seen, and he is now, and I don't know how much I believe this, some of this I think is a coping mechanism, but his general attitude is, well, until they get good again, I'm not going to care. And I totally understand that. Like, I've felt that way about teams that I follow before. And so I think it is a bit of a coping because you can't, completely understand how this is going on, how your favorite team continues to make bad decision after bad decision or nothing works out. But I think that's maybe, if that guy is to that point and he was as feverish a fan as I knew, then I would suspect that there's a big chunk of fans that at Texas that are like, well, whatever, just call me when it's good again.
Yeah. It's understandable, but it's also one of the worst things that can happen to a college program. In the pros, you can do that. Like, I'm a Washington football team fan, so, if they stink, then I just say, whatever, and I move about my business. I don't really have to worry. Okay, what do I look forward to if I'm a pro sports fan? Where's the draft pick next year, right?
Yeah.
Where's the draft pick? What coach are we going to fire and hire? That it's not dissimilar in college football because, you can go and fire your coach and go get that big fish, that you feel like is going to turn everything around. But, in terms of not showing your support, that'll kill you in college way quicker than it'll kill you in the pros.
Yeah.
And that's when you get to that point is when you really get concerned because once the enthusiasm dies down and maybe people don't want to open their pocketbooks as much now that Texas will ever hurt for money. But that's when you start to go, okay, now we're really in a bad spot when even the diehards are starting to go, you know what, I'm spending too much time on this, or I don't care as much anymore. That's when it's not going well.
Yeah, it's easier for me to tune out an NFL team than it is, and I know that's an incredibly popular bazillion-dollar sport, as is college football in a lot of ways. But it's easier for me to tune out a bad NFL team than it is my favorite college team. Another NFL note: former Baylor head coach Matt Rule at Carolina had a big win last week. He says that Cam Newton will start for the Panthers as they play Washington with Ron Rivera coming back. That's a couple of NFL notes. Now, we will highlight today Ohio State at 3:30 with Joey Kaufman, Grayson Grunhafer on Baylor recruiting 3:45. Our buddy Softy. Put your earmuffs on. Put your filter on. I was on his show last night in Seattle, Washington, on Washington's coaching search. Also, Jeff Burkhart on Kansas State at 4:30. Sam Bradshaw breaks it down for us, Baylor and KU on both sides of the football. And I went home last night, and I don't have, some of you did. The 419 texted me a couple of different times. I went home last night, and I listened to Todd Berry twice more. Not just when we had him live yesterday from the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association. I listened to him twice, and I tried to find part of the 22-minute interview that maybe we could run today that was not relevant. I can't. It's all going to run. We're going to run that again about 5:20. Great feedback from you on that, from recruiting, from the ethics committee, as far as recruiting, a lot of it involving coaches leaving early at Joey McGuire to Texas Tech, and also so much more We'll have that today at 5:20.
I'll give you a little preview of it for those of you who haven't seen it or watched it yet and listened to it. In regards to NIL and boosters using NIL to recruit, he said now we have boosters recruiting a bunch of guys that maybe the coach doesn't even want them to go and get.
Yeah.
And that is something I honestly had never even considered, because when you think back to the wild, wild west days of the Southwest Conference and like all the stuff that was going on, particularly just use SMU as an example because that was the one that's been made the big example of that most people know about. Eric Dickerson, everybody wanted Eric Dickerson. They weren't going out and just telling the coach like, hey, are you going to put this guy in your team? But now so many people think they know so much more about it because there are recruiting websites and all those different things that didn't exist in 1984. You're never wrong. But you could be a big booster that reads rivals.com and go, hey, why is XYZ University not going after the number one quarterback? Well, I'm going to go and offer him an NIL deal, and then he'll come here. Well, maybe you don't want him because you don't want him. He doesn't fit. You know, he might be great in another team's program, but not yours.
If you're helping to recruit a player that your coach has no interest in, you're an absolute effing moron, and you need to get a hobby because, I mean, you're indirectly hurting your football program while you're simultaneously thinking that you're actually helping your football program, even though you're trying to pull in a player using money that the coach doesn't even want. I mean, like, that's just next level stupidity right there, and just next level weird college football stuff right there. But yeah, he mentioned that. He mentioned a lot of stuff to do with NIL, rules changes, players faking injuries. I mean, a ton of different stuff that's all, and he mentioned how, like, for example, if Joey McGuire at Tech now wants to go and recruit a Baylor commit, he can't do it directly. He has to send, I don't even know who's on his staff at this point, but whoever's on this temporary staff with Cumbie, those guys have to go and talk to a Baylor commit, right? Versus Joey because of a conflict of interest. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. So, yeah, it's definitely worth a listen if you haven't heard it already.
So we're going to run that again today, and so you can listen to it then today at 5:20, Paul's Top 5 to close it all out. Bob Huggins, this is part of the chat room. Hey, guys, give Bob Huggins some credit. He won his 903rd game last night. That's from a West Virginia fan. Let's see here. Well, Aaron Scott, Wake Forest. John Kelly, thank God it's Friday, y'all. And yeah, this is from John Kelly on Hugs. Give Hugs a shout out for passing 903 wins last night, now ahead of Roy Williams, fourth all-time in college basketball victories. From JG, Go Damn Pokes, Quack Quack Rectum, West Virginia Bears, Wake Forest, TGIF. Happy weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Tequila Robinson transferring. Transfers to Texas from Alabama. That, of course, that happened in the offseason. Yeah. He's already played a little bit with Texas. Let's see here. Also, John Kelly, ESPN2 Graphics, got it wrong last night with Huggins. Wasn't in the top 5 in all-time wins. He passed Bob Knight and Roy Williams in about a week's time. So there's a little bit of that as well. Now, 254-339-1122. The lines are open. Your thoughts about the game that focuses in you, that you're most focused in on. Could be Baylor, K-State. Could be Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. It could be whoever it might be, Ohio State and Michigan State. We'll hear from Columbus Dispatch reporter Joey Kaufman today. He'll join us at the bottom of the hour. I've had a couple of you ask me about the Big 12, and it's been kind of quiet. And there's nothing new here other than a couple of you have said, would you update again a little bit about Chapter 2? I've said this many times, and I'll say it again, that the Big 12 would like to have an announcement by the end of this month on Chapter 2. That has been slowed down initially because the Pac-12, they thought, was going to have a TV contract. I don't think that's going to happen. That doesn't mean the Big 12 is not going to do Chapter 2. I just think they were going to look at the barometer, look at the figures of what their TV was going to be like in the Pac-12. I do know this. It looks as if that the Big 12 teams, remember the, oh my God, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. Nobody's going to get more than $10 million a year. It's going to be a massive drop-off. They are negotiating, of course, the TV in some ways with whoever. But there is a chance that with 12 teams, that there's an opportunity that the Big 12 payout to each team will be around. Now, this is not me reporting this, could be in the neighborhood of about in the upper 40 millions. Now, there's also a Big 12 conference fee of about $4 million or so, about 10% of that. So that would come off. Now, there's a chance the Tier 3 rights, which right now each team gets about $4 million. Oklahoma and Texas have their own thing. and everybody else gets about $4 million. There's a chance that could double with 12 teams. And the drop-off from 12 to 16 is not that significant. Even when you had 4 more teams into the mix, it's not going to be. It might cost each program, the 12, not including Texas and Oklahoma, maybe $4 or $5 million a year if you go to Chapter 2.
Well, also, the benefit to going to 16 teams and maybe giving up a little bit of money, and if it's fairly negligible, is that if this happens again, you don't have to reassess the whole structure of your conference. You might lose 2, but but you're not going to, it won't put you to where like, oh, can't you lose 1 more? You're not a Power 5 team or Power 5 conference anymore, and all those different things. So that's part of the reason you go to 16 is just to guard against any further shakeups going on, which, who knows if that'll happen or when that'll happen at all. The other thing I wonder about the Pac-12 TV contract is, and this is just me spitballing in my brain. If you're a network that is interested in college football as the center of your sports package or part of it, why would you just react and give the Pac-12 your money right now when maybe a couple of the other ones that are coming up in a couple of years could be better for you? The Pac-12, I know that this is probably on them for slowing their TV negotiations down, but look, if I'm NBC and I'm thinking about putting the Pac-12 on Peacock, do I maybe want to see what the Big 12 turns out to see where I want to distribute some of that money, just because maybe it's better for me than the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 being the only one who is up there for negotiation right now, and the Big 12 still has another year before they even start, to me, that might slow things down from the network perspective and going, well, let's just see what happens with everybody else.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 wants to move forward rather than wait. Although I've said this, that they wanted to see what happens with the Pac-12 with Kliavkoff, but it looks like that something's muddied the waters with them. I don't know what that might be. I'm not sure if there's certain presidents and I'm not saying this is what I know. It kind of gets the impression that something has slowed down their effort to get the TV contract, and that might take longer than they wanted. And if that's the case, if you're the Big 12, you wanted to kind of see their numbers, you might still want to wait, but I'm not sure that's what they'll do as they move forward. But I still think that there will be a Chapter 2, and I've mentioned that. When now, I don't know. That timeline's been fuzzied a little bit, been blurred a little bit, so to speak. From the text line, from the 740, do you guys think Jim Harbaugh has a realistic chance to finally beat Ohio State this year? If it gets into a shootout, no. If they score and they get the ball back a couple of times with the lead, maybe they can shorten the clock, but I don't know if they have the firepower to stay with Ohio State.
No, if it gets into one of those things where it's all of a sudden 21-14 in the second quarter, I don't know if that's, unless they can slow it down after that. I don't think so. I think that, look, Ohio State's defense has been playing better, but their opponents have gotten a little lesser over the weeks, but they still have a problem stopping the run when it's directly at you. I'm very curious to see how they do against Kenneth Walker this week. He's good. They're going to, Mel Tucker's going to run Kenneth Walker, until his shoulder pads fall apart. I would think, and that's what I would do, and that's what Ohio State's problem has been all year on defense. So if Michigan State can do it, then Michigan can. But I'd be more confident answering that question after I see how Michigan State attacks them, mostly running the ball this week.
Yeah, I just would repeat what you said. I mean, I think we'll see a good idea this weekend against Kenneth Walker and Michigan State. But, Michigan's got a shot. Any rivalry game, I don't ever go into it thinking like, well, this team has no chance whatsoever. There's always a chance. But, no, Ohio State looks really good right now. You can tell they're feeling it a little bit here as we get down to the home stretch. But, Michigan's a good club. So, we'll see. I'm definitely in agreement, though, on the shootout aspect. They're not going to line up and be able to go toe for toe, score for score. So it would depend stylistically on the game. But, yeah, let's see Ohio State versus Kenneth Walker and that rushing attack for Sparty first, and then kind of get a better idea of what that could look like.
All right, a couple of more from the chat room. Go Hawkeye Nation. James Bowenkamp. The Birds' word, Oregon has to be a tie break. Has to be a tie between Prefontaine and D from Sunny in Philadelphia. Are we talking about maybe
this is what happens when you just randomly read off text?
So, no, I asked people because I'd like to do a top 5 next week, who is the biggest celebrity that is the fan of their school. So I can maybe aggregate this and not just kind of, go off Google. I'd like to do something a little bit deeper when I do these
things. So Phil
things.
Knight wouldn't count?
Well, Phil Knight counts, but like, is he fun? Like, of course, he's their benefactor, but
they would cease to exist without him.
I know, but like, is he as fun as D from Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I don't know. I've never watched that show, but I've heard about it. It's pretty good. Also, from Scotty B, Paul Catalina, I would say Baylor's biggest. Chip and Joanna.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
That's probably going to get most of the votes as well. All right, 254-339-1122, 254-339-1122. From Oklahoma State, Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different topic, and we appreciate that. Also from Eric, I would include Rice, Tulsa, SMU, and Memphis for Chapter 2.
No.
It's not going to be Rice, and it's not going to be Tulsa.
What would Rice do? Raise your academic rates, but, who cares about that, really? Let's be honest about it. I saw Baylor release their all-academic team. I didn't see people, blink an eye over it. But if you were to say, oh, well, there's 3 guys going to the Senior Bowl, which there are, and we didn't really talk about, then you get a bunch of people with, 500 retweets. If you want to, not worry so much about football and be the academic conference, then bring on Rice, bring on Pepperdine, bring, whoever you want. But you've already got Houston. You don't really have any need whatsoever for another Houston team. And even if you had a need for a Houston team, Rice still doesn't even really bring you that much of Houston. So, no, that wouldn't work.
There's one that mentioned the problem with the Pac-12, no matter even if the eyeballs in the Pac-12 will be watching during their time zone, which is in 2-hour difference from where we are in Central Texas, 3 from the East Coast. The difference would be that's still the time zone difference, because so many games, there are people sleeping at some points when they're playing. You hear a Pac-12 after dark, which was always kind of because things just got crazy.
What does that have to do with?
The TV contract that the Pac-12, maybe that's one of the issues that hurts them a little bit as far as the money they get. And they don't have a dog. Oregon's trying to be a dog, and if that helps, but you got to have a couple of dogs. And especially when you have an uphill climb because of the time zone.
Well, who's the Big 12's dogs once Texas and Oklahoma leave?
Yeah. We don't know. Yeah, that's
so. If you have to have a dog,
but they're not battling a 2 or 3 hour difference in time zone with the East Coast.
Yeah, I get that. But you're right. You need some dogs, but that Pac-12 deal will be interesting to see. And I watch, Pac-12 after dark. I will say though that for a game that you have to wait so long to watch, there's also not always interesting matchups. It's just like whatever game. It's like, oh, here's randomly Oregon State and Washington State. And it's like, I don't know if this means anything or not, but this is the only game on at 11 o'clock at night, so I'll watch it. Like, maybe if they made it mean a little bit more as well, that would entice you. But I know they don't want to just go slap USC or Oregon on late night TV. And hell, I barely remember ever seeing Oregon on Pac-12 after dark. Hardly ever, it seems like. It's always Oregon State or
Washington State
or
Arizona
schools. Yeah, it's always the same schools over, and random matchups with Cal that I could care less about, but that's the Pac-12 late night game. So yeah, I definitely think there's some work to be done on that TV contract.
Stephen Snook, maybe a big problem with the Pac-12 with media rights is the Pac-12 network is a losing proposition. There is no question about it. And Kliakoff thinks it should be valued more than it is. But that has been an absolute losing deal. It's a mess. They need to follow what the Big Ten did, selling 51% to Fox, and Pac-12 network needs more money.
That's going to be a tough sell when you think it should be valued more than it is, and nobody's run it well yet, and nobody's really interested in it in your own fan base. Let's take one phone call. Right. We got to go to break. All right, Howard in Oregon. You're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
The opposite is true also. Texas, Oklahoma, and Central Time, if they play at 11 or 12 in the morning, we get it at 9. I'm a football fanatic, so I'm up watching it. Most people don't want to get up on a Saturday and watch, even though it's a great game, at 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so we get the opposite on the West Coast. Another thing I want to just kind of alert you guys to, I think it's going to be a great game Saturday. Utah against Oregon at Rice-Eccles Field in Salt Lake City. You got 2, in my opinion, real good quarterbacks. You got Rising and you got Brown. Plus you got a plethora of running backs that Utah has against a real good Oregon defense with Thibodeau and Sewell. I think that's going to be the classic game of Saturday.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the information.
Yep.
I'm trying to total population per time zone. I was trying to look that up. I would say, I'm going to guess, of course, California has a massive population, but I'm going to say is 70% of the country central and east, or is it 70% mountain, central and east? What do you think? What would you
I would
guess?
say central and east. You know, it is that. I mean, that's just my guess. I don't know, but there's a whole lot of open space in the mountain time zone. So.
Yeah, I would think that would have been easy for me to Google, but I'm struggling finding it actually in the east or the central or whatever it might be. But, yeah, Howard, you make a good point as far as on the West Coast, the game's at 11. You have to get up, make sure you have your cereal pretty quickly.
All right, one more call, and then we've got to go to Joey Kaufman in the next segment. Let's go back to Oakland. And I believe this is Gabriel in Oakland. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, hey, guys. Yeah, I had a question about the college football playoff expansion. Yeah, I just saw a report on Instagram that it's most likely they're going to go to 12 teams next year, possibly. I was just trying to see how you guys would choose the 12 teams. Would it be a combination of conference champions plus, at-large bids, or just the best 12, period?
Conference champions will be included.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why play the conference championship games? I get money. To me, you have to give conference champions something. Otherwise, you're playing. You're going to make more money in the. What do you think? I think all Power 5 conference teams right now, who they are, will all get a bid, and I think they'll still have a group of 5 highest rated team, and then after that, it might be at large from hell. I don't know.
I would, if it was up to me, I would take the top 6 top 6 highest rated conference champions like they talked about, and then I would do away with the committee, and then I would let the at-large be picked by the computer.
I would burn down the television show, throw the studio out in the ocean, and not allow them to do that anymore. And some more of an open look more than we get right now, rather than just like, hey, we've emerged from our secret chamber, and here's what you need to know about like this weird setup that they do every week. 12, I think that was mentioned on Dan Patrick earlier today, that if they don't get it done in time to put it in place for next year, then the soonest that a 12-team playoff could happen would be 2025. And does anybody think they really want to wait another 4 years potentially to do a 12-team playoff? No. So that seems like it's probably on its way. I think Power 5s, yes, conference champions should be automatics. I think you have to have at least 2 spots for the at-large schools, or at least 1 spot, certainly for the at-large schools. And, I mean, I don't know. There's so many different scenarios. I'm just all about the conference champs getting a shot, and I'm all about the non-group of 5s getting at least 1 to 2 shots in there. And so long as that happens, I'm not really concerned about how the rest of it would fill out, unless – I do think there have to be things in place to where you don't have like 4 schools from the same conference, because we know what conference in particular would probably pull that off, if any. I don't think that should ever really be a thing. But yeah, as long as it's got the 5, power champions, and they give some love to the Cincinnatis and the Conference US, or the American Athletics and those teams as some non-group of 5 spots, then I'm cool with that. And how they want to fill the rest of it, I don't really care.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody, when they start the season in late August or early September, that if you play, you have a chance to go to the championship game and not have to go through some kind of a bells and whistles and crap that we see right now. I've been told that about 75% of the country is in the mountain, central, and eastern time zone, which is about what I said, I think, a little bit ago, but that appreciate that. All right, when we come back, Ohio State, Michigan State. Yesterday we focused it on Michigan State, Kenneth Walker, and that great running game that they have. Ohio State, covered by Joey Kaufman. The Columbus Dispatch is next. 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com. Look, the football weekend is upon us. You might have placed a bet on New England and Atlanta last night. Look, we've got college football, college basketball, tons of tournaments going on now, so lots to bet on there. The NBA, the NHL, All that's going on right now, and you can get it all at betus.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That is 125% bonus on cash or 200% on crypto. So use our promo codes SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200 when you sign up at betus.com. The 3-decade leader, all kind of bets across the board. No matter what it is, they've got your action at betus.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It's the Black Friday sales event going on now. Come see the beautiful, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L in stock at Allen Samuels. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now and no payments for 90 days. First responders get an extra $500 cash. Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Ohio State, Michigan State. I would think you look at the rankings and much more. Of course, the game that has more impact on the college football playoff than any other game And Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch covers Ohio State, joins us on 365 Sports, Sick and 365 Radio. So, Joey, obviously Ohio State had that ding early in the year with Oregon. Why are they better than they were at that point of the season?
Well, they've made a lot of changes on defense. That's probably the biggest difference from where they were in early September. Matt Barnes, secondary coach, is now calling plays instead of Kerry Combs, who's still the defensive coordinator by title, but no longer the official play caller for the defense. And they've retooled some of their rotation on defense. They have a different starting group of linebackers than they had early in the year with Steel Chambers and Cody Simon now the starting linebackers. And probably what shouldn't be overlooked is C.J. Stroud's healthy. When he played against Oregon, he had a separated shoulder, had an AC joint in his shoulder that had been separated. So which got hurt the season opener at Minnesota. So he's physically a lot better than he was in early September. So really those two things, I think, if you're a casual observer watching this team for the first time since September 11th against Oregon, those are probably two things to keep in mind.
Is this, though, I mean, on their defense, which is still, obviously not driving the bus of their team, has been playing better, but facing Kenneth Walker would be the matchup that would maybe give them night sweats, wouldn't it be?
It would, and I think it's because they really haven't faced a running back of his caliber all year. For whatever reason, there are not a ton of your usual Big Ten running back pool where it's really deep. So they really haven't faced an elite back. Penn State didn't have one this year. They don't play Michigan until the end of the year after Michigan State. So because of that, they really haven't gone up against a guy of this caliber. They haven't played Wisconsin in the regular season. So that's the matchup where it could be a potential concern because we think Ohio State's defense is better than they were in September, but they haven't faced a premier running back. And in those first two games against Oregon and Minnesota, they gave up 203 yards to Minnesota, 269 yards to Oregon, all on the ground. So this will be their biggest test in those 2 weeks.
Offensively, Olave obviously gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so, but there's a couple of receivers there in that Buckeyes group that are from the state of Texas, just down the road. Jackson Smith and Jigba, over 1,000 yards on the year, and Garrett Wilson has had a great year as well. Just what have you seen from those two? Obviously, Wilson's been there, done that. I think Smith and Jigba's kind of, on the come-up here, but what have you seen from those two Texas wideouts in particular?
Well, a big reason why Jamison Williams ended up transferring from Ohio State to Alabama this offseason was because of the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba in spring ball. They knew he was going to be their starting slot receiver, which is why Garrett Wilson, who played slot last year, has moved back outside where you can really take advantage of his leaping ability and body control on the sidelines. He's been playing there this year, and Jackson Smith and Jigba has been a guy who's playing the slot and has a lot of really good chemistry with C.J. Stroud. They both were in the same recruiting class, and they both played together at the opening down in Texas when they were there in 2019 as part of on the Elite 11 circuit. So they've had a chance over the years to work out together. They were on the second team last year in practices. So I think because of that, C.J.'s been real comfortable turning to him, which is why he became Ohio State's first 1,000-yard receiver this year.
All right, so Ohio State 9-1, Michigan State 7th in the country, Michigan right after that. Is it of the belief, you would think, Joey, that if Ohio State just wins out, no matter the head-to-head loss, if Oregon keeps winning, that they'll eventually overtake the Ducks?
I think so, because Oregon's not going to get a lot of opportunities to really get high-quality wins on their resume. I guess Utah is ranked this week at the bottom of the rankings, but if the Ducks win that, Utah's going to drop out of the top 25, and they could play again in the Pac-12 title game, or could hand them another loss. So it seems as if the way the committee has looked at Michigan State, they've been willing to look past head-to-head when they feel one team is superior to the other. They haven't quite used that to have Ohio State jump Oregon yet, but I think if Ohio State does add 2 top 10 wins in the next 2 weeks, it's inevitable.
What's been the reaction around the conference to Mel Tucker's contract extension?
I think if you are the agents of some of the other coaches like Ryan Day and James Franklin, you gotta probably call up your athletic director. But I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, to reset the market a little bit. For Mel Tucker, he's a guy who certainly has Michigan State trending in the right direction, but he's coached there for, I think it's 16 games or so. I mean, he does not have a long established track record of proving that he's the guy. He also hasn't proven that he's not the guy. So it's a little bit based on the potential that he could do for them. But I think it means a lot for the other coaches like Ryan Day, who has done it before, who's led Ohio State to multiple Big Ten titles and could lead them to a third this year. So I think that's really what it does going forward.
Joey, I know they got to worry about Sparty, but I mean, you can talk freely about what happens after that. We had a texter just a few minutes ago asking about Michigan's chances against Ohio State this year. I know it's early, and again, there's a game to be played this weekend, but early preview, how do you see the Wolverines stacking up against the Buckeyes?
Well, I think their defense will be interesting to see them go up against the Ohio State offense because they have a really good pass rush in Aiden Hutchinson, and if a team's going to be able to beat Ohio State, you're going to have to somehow disrupt C.J. Stroud's timing. Not only does Ohio State have a great trio of wide receivers for him to throw to, but they have a good offensive line where he doesn't face a ton of pressure. So you're going to have to be able to get out and get him. And Michigan has that a little more. So I think they're a little more balanced than Michigan State on both sides of the ball. I think Michigan State's defense is a lot more vulnerable than the Wolverines. And that's where I think if we're looking ahead to next week, Michigan could create some problems for them. And they run the ball really well. It's the same challenge Michigan State, I think, will bring to Ohio State, where I think you still have questions about Ohio State's linebackers. And if a team is fashioned as an old school Big Ten team that can roll the ball on the ground, they can have some success against the Buckeyes. And so Michigan, I give a slight. I think to me that is the bigger challenge of the stretch run because you're going on the road and you're going against a team that I think is a little more balanced between offense and defense.
Joey, I saw the story you had, I think about a day ago, about the cost of tickets, football tickets for next year being reduced. What's the story with that?
They're trying to lower the get-in price, essentially, where if you are a season ticket holder and trying to just get the worst possible seats or of season tickets, you can now get that at a lower price. They've had some trouble with attendance this year on the margins in terms of some of their the cheap seats up in the upper deck. You see some gaps this year. It's more earlier in the season. Lately, they've had some sellout crowds. They want to ensure that they're getting 100,000 people for every game, and it maintains a really solid home field atmosphere. I mean, they'll host Notre Dame and Michigan next year. And earlier in the season when they played Tulsa, I mean, they had their lowest attendance for a game since 1971. They had about 30,000 empty seats, which is pretty unusual for the Horseshoe.
Everybody's getting hit with it, huh?
Yeah, it's across the board. There's even for those who have the 100,000 seat stadiums, there are times when you see some scattered empty seats as well. Part of it's the economy. Part of it might still be a backlash from COVID, and part of it might be everything's available. You don't have to be at the game even if it's an incredible atmosphere. Joey, thank you very much for your time. Joey Kaufman covers Ohio State, the Columbus Dispatch, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. When we come back, Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim365.com, and the weekend, or the week that has been with recruiting. What did the Oklahoma win mean? Baylor had a decommitment from a defensive lineman from Monroe. What did that mean? And more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you need to be, want to be, and as you get older, maybe used to be. As you get older, your testosterone levels can drop. It's part of father time. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. Yeah, it does help based on your exercise and perhaps your diet or whatever else, but testosterone can change even if you do all of that well. It can drop. So what does Dr. Kent Petty do for you? PettyClinicLOT.com. We'll find out what your testosterone levels are by setting up an appointment for you to give your blood, get the test result, the lab results back. He'll look at them, and if your testosterone levels are a little bit low or a lot low, he can put you in a program, if you want, to help increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be. It could be sleep habits. It could be sex drive. It could be, by the way, also even just your energy levels aren't the same, and part of that, and a lot of that, and some of that could be, of course, testosterone. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and that might be you. Petty Clinic, lowt.com.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
So recently, a northern transplant in our fair city came in to pick up outfitters for the first time, and he was starstruck. He told us that truck accessories were not needed in Illinois. I know, pick your jaw up off the ground. An entire state full of trucks driving around completely nude. Then he said he saw the light when he moved to Texas and found that in Texas, truck accessories were a necessity. I don't know about a necessity, but Texans have a whole different attitude about their trucks, and they give them their rightful place as a family member. I mean, what exactly do you use your truck for if you're not going to put anything on it? All this is a warning for the good people of Central Texas to stay diligent. Don't let your truck look like it came from up north. Put something on that truck, for goodness sakes. A bumper, a lift kit, some running boards. At Pickup Outfitters, we know what your truck needs. So come and see us at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Gruntafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Gruenhafer, he is always his name somewhere in the premium section and also pinned at the top. And then some of the offers that go out, you can see his name. Grayson Gruenhafer, Sikkim365.com, covers Baylor recruiting. Joins us today on Sikkim 365 Radio. So let's start with anything new, anything that they get a bump out of that Oklahoma win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first news really isn't a bump, but I mean, they lost a commitment this week with Anichi Sledge, the defensive lineman out of Louisiana. He decided to decommit from Baylor after taking his official visit to Oklahoma State this past weekend. He also got a Texas Tech offer this week as well, but interesting situation there with him deciding to reopen his recruitment. He was one of those guys who was, posting a lot of offers even since committing to Baylor, and so he decided to open things up. So that opens up another spot for the Bears. As far as Oklahoma goes, I think it's another one of those things, Smokey, where it's kind of a culmination of things. This Baylor staff is not going to land a ton of guys just based off one game. And most schools aren't going to land a guy just because of one game, one rash decision, one moment. Baylor wants to make sure that the guys they're taking are bought in. They're guys who they've built a relationship with and throughout the course of their recruitment. And then you have a game like the Oklahoma game. And then you go, okay, now we have all these relationships built. And now these guys are looking even more and more at Baylor. So I think that's the biggest stride. And there was tons of great responses from it. But I know a lot of people are like, why aren't there, 12 commitments after one weekend? Well, that's not how this Baylor staff operates, and it never will be how they operate. It's not just one game. It's about the culmination of an entire recruitment.
Grayson, do you expect to see them make a push here in the next couple of weeks over some guys or maybe some people coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so I mean they're at 18 commits now after losing Anichi. So now I think the guys that you have to look at, specifically Kaleem Shoemaker, cornerback, Kamari Terrell. He's a guy that Baylor is really, really recruiting hard. He added offers from LSU and Mississippi State recently. So there's a battle there, but I feel good about Baylor's chances right now to land the local prospect. I mean, he's a Central Texas guy. Baylor needs to find a way to land him. And I mean, that's a position of need, the cornerback position. So he's definitely one to watch over the next couple weeks as we kind of lead up to signing day. I mean, we're less than a month away now from signing day. So he's one. And then obviously they need to address the defensive line now. They just lost the commitment. The plan was to take a defensive lineman anyways. So now it's kind of a situation where they have offers out. Ethan Burke out of Austin Westlake, Paul Oyewale out of Langham Creek. You have Devontae Tazzino out of Killeen Ellison. You got Calvin Dinkins out of Mississippi. Those are the four guys right now. And I think Baylor would like to land two of them to fill in for Anichi and then to also just add depth to their defensive line position, which if you look at the roster, guys, that's an area they need to address, the defensive line. And I think they're going to try to do that down this home stretch. And outside of that, it's really about best available type. Whether it's Aneto Umeozulu out of Allen, one of the top offensive linemen in the country, or maybe it's a Matthew Golden out of Klein Payne, a wide receiver in the 2022 class, he's a four-star. He's got offers from LSU, Texas, Arkansas. He's got a lot of offers as well. So those types, I think, are another area to look at to see if Baylor can maybe flip a guy or if Baylor is just able to land one of those big-time names down the stretch.
Grayson, have you seen any indication that the rumors swirling around all these coaching searches and, in particular the fact that Dave Aranda is being brought up with every single job that opens up, whether it's legit or not, have you seen that creep into the thinking of recruiting at all, or is that something that they've been able to just kind of not worry about so far?
I think that they haven't had to worry too much about it. Obviously, I think for any recruit, it's a concern. And if any of us were in that situation, it has to be on your mind. Dave Aranda is doing so many good things. His name keeps getting brought up. And while I don't think he's going anywhere, and I know you guys don't think he's going anywhere, it's still, it's an 18-year-old trying to make a decision. And so I'm sure it's in the minds of some recruits, but I also think that it's an opportunity for Baylor to use it to their advantage. If Baylor can sell, listen, all these programs want him because he's such a good coach, and he's going to be the guy that's going to lead Baylor into this next, level, into the future, into, college football playoff berth. Well, schools like LSU and USC, they're looking for them, these big programs, and there's a reason behind that. And so hopefully Baylor can sell that positively. I know it's going to be used most likely over the next month. So hopefully they have some way to counteract it. And maybe it's Dave Aranda simply saying, I'm not going anywhere. And if that happens, then every commit's going to be very fine hearing that. They would love to hear that. And I'm sure at some point they'll get that response.
What would it be like if you're a Baylor fan watching your program succeed and not have to worry about rumors swirling about your coach, some speculation, some of it legitimate? It has been almost a decade, really, if you think about that, where that's kind of been the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you're a winning program. I mean, that just is. I mean, every school in the country is going to be looking at you to see if they can find the next, Nick Saban, or if they can find the next, rising young coach. I mean, that just is the name of the game. College football is a business, and it's a business for these coaches. It's a business for all these schools. It's a win now type of job. So everybody's looking for the next, new, young, bright, shiny thing. And, these coaches, they're very wanted. And, Dave Aranda is definitely going to be wanted, especially since there's so many jobs opening up this year.
Grayson, your thoughts on Kansas State on the road this weekend?
Yeah, this is going to be a really exciting one, guys. I think, for the Baylor program especially, they really have struggled on the road since they've added, since Dave Aranda's become the head coach. Last year doesn't really count. I think it's pretty much a pass, but they didn't win a road game last year. And this year, the only road game is Kansas that they've won. I mean, Texas State as well, but the only conference home game was Kansas. And so they need to play better on the road. They need that kind of confidence when they go on the road, the same confidence they've had in McLean Stadium every single week. They've been awesome at home. It's got to travel. And that's the next step for Dave Aranda and this program. This is a massive game. And you know what? I've been looking at kind of the college football playoff things, and obviously that's further down the road. I know a two-loss team has never been in the college football playoff, but if Baylor wins out, they're going to make it really hard on the committee if the right losses happen. I mean, if it's between a two-loss Baylor versus Cincinnati for the last spot, I just think crazier things have happened. So this is a big game for this program. It's big for Aranda. It's big for these players. And honestly, they're going to get tested because I think this Kansas State team is a really good team. They're very balanced. They do a lot of things well. And if you show up and you lay an egg, you're going to lose probably pretty badly. So hopefully they bring it all together. They run the football. They're able to give Gary some confidence on the road. The defense travels. Then I don't think they should have too big of a problem because I do feel like they're the better football team.
Grayson, thank you very much. Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim365.com, recruiting analyst. He and Craig every Tuesday do the Bearcast. It's a full hour plus. It's a Thanksgiving week treat every week. Stuff yourself with Baylor news on Tuesdays with the Bearcast. It's put up on the Sikkim 365 premium section and also Sikkim365.com on Twitter.
It was interesting to hear about Anichi Sledge.
Yeah.
And, he had just gone to a visit to Oklahoma State. So, I mean, I can understand that somewhat. If he had just been on a visit to, a school not known for defense, I'd be wondering what he's doing right now. Why would you decommit from Dave freaking Aranda of all people? But if it's because you just got done, hanging out with Jim Knowles, I can understand that a little bit because they have a very, very good defense, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, they need to hang on to these guys, and I think that the more Aranda's around, I mean, the better this program's going to be. But, I'm not 100% sold that nothing could happen. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying with 100% certainty, I don't believe he's going anywhere,
right,
and he never will. I'm not saying that. Obviously I've watched college football long enough to know to never say never with anything. I do, if I had to predict right now, I still say Aranda's in Waco next year, but I know there's a lot of smoke. So until that smoke gets put out, it's going to be there. And I like the way that Grayson put it. You can use that to your advantage. I think you got to be very careful with that because if it becomes a Matt Rule thing where it's every single year that you're, and look, with Rule, it wasn't like it was 10 years. It was 3 off seasons basically, or 2 off seasons, but that started to wear on people after a while. The constant, having to hear about
when
is
he
or isn't
interviewed
he.
with the Colts after 1-11, that's when you knew it was going to be a consistent thing. Yeah.
Right, and so, Aranda definitely didn't do anything along those lines, and, he's not the type to go and address every rumor either, but, yeah, that's something that they got to be careful in how they handle, and, if he sticks around, I think that it would make a big statement, but we'll see.
All right, when we come back, Dave Softy Mahler, KJR up in Seattle. He is stick your head in a tank of gasoline and light it with a match. Get ready as he talks about or discusses the University of Washington coaching search. He asked me last night on his show, along with his co-host, about Gary Patterson. One of his co-hosts wanted that. And then he asked, of course, about Dave Aranda. So, Softy joins us next. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Well, they had yet another concert, Discover Woodway. Yet another concert. Jake Hood and the Sundance Head finished up their concert series for yet another week. And guess what? They'll go right back at with more because that's what they do. There's always energy going on at the city of Woodway right there just on the southern part of Waco. Oh, by the way, 7 hotels. There's a lot of hotels, more now in Waco than you could ever imagine. There used to be, it seemed like all in one hand. Maybe not that small or few, but there are hotels everywhere, and 7 of them are options for you in Woodway with beautiful scenery and trails and, of course, just off the lake as well. And, not that far from Magnolia, the Silos, or Balcones, the great place that has their brewery and distillery, by that, and Baylor University. And about a 10-minute drive from all of that, it's same right there. Same distance to McLean Stadium, Baylor and Texas Tech a week from Saturday. They have all sorts of fantastic places, including the hike and bike trails. The Todd Willis Nature Trail winds through native woodlands, suitable for explorers, young and old alike. Visitors enjoy a short walk to the tea house, where you can enjoy gorgeous views of the active creek below from the comfort of a wooden gazebo, compliments of a Woodway Boy Scout. It's City of Woodway and discoverwoodway.com.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list. Choose your inbound vehicle, get on the list, and get your car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to choose your inbound vehicle today. Go to richardcarr.com for details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA Golf. They've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
3rd and goal at the 8. Bohannon looking, he's got it! Touchdown, Tyquan Thornton!
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Chat room has been bouncing back and forth on many things, including always, almost daily, of course, realignment and what might be happening, coaching searches and all of that. But one of the big conversations, Utah favored against Oregon in that game coming up tomorrow night. Baylor's an underdog in Manhattan against Kansas State. That thing's gone back and forth, and a lot of talk about Oregon and the win they need. Keep going, although it seems like they're kind of like in quicksand when it comes to the college football playoff. All right, so last night I was on Stick Your Head in a Tank of Gasoline and Light It with a Match. The personality of Softy. Softy Mahler from KJR in Seattle joins us on Sick'em 365 Radio. Damn, it was great to hear your voice last night.
How y'all doing? What the hell's going on down there? We're gonna take your head coach, Dave Aranda. We're gonna bring him up here and turn him into a superstar, and he's gonna win multiple national championships at Washington. Book it.
So you've been at a bar all day, is that right? You started the weekend early. No, you're not taking him. I told you that. You're not. Don't leave him alone. Stop.
I just, you know what? I was not at a bar, but I was at the second best thing. I just walked off the golf course, so pretty close.
What'd you shoot?
Pretty freaking close, man. How you guys doing down there? So, hey, listen, honestly, are you telling me, and Dave said this on my show last night, and Dave never lies. He's an honest Dave. He always tells the truth. He told us last night that there's no way Dave Aranda would leave leave Baylor for UW, and we should wash our dirty, greasy, frickin' hippie granola Northwest hands off the idea that Dave Aranda is ever going to coach at Washington, and we should go get somebody else. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly damn right I did. Yeah. I said, take Gary Patterson.
Yeah. Gary Patterson, you don't give a damn because Gary Patterson's not working anymore. So I don't know, man. It's crazy, guys, honestly, that we're sitting here having this conversation because 19 months ago, Jimmy Lake, 20 months ago, whatever it was introduced as the head coach at Washington to replace Chris Peterson. And it made total sense, right? I mean, just like Lincoln Riley stepped in for Bob Stoops, Ryan Day for Urban Meyer, Dabo was promoted as a assistant coach to the Clemson head job. You were hoping that this guy would keep it going. You know, he was a big reason why the defense was so good. Look around the NFL, you see a bunch of guys that played for Jimmy Lake. Taylor Rapp is starting at safety for the Rams, and Buda Baker, Byron Murphy for the Cardinals. Vita Vea is a monster for the frickin' Buccaneers right now. There's guys all over the NFL. Greg Gaines in L.A. that played for Jimmy Lake, and he was a huge reason why the Huskies were as good as they were on defense under Chris Peterson. So it made total sense, and then here we are, 20 months later, whatever it is, and he's gone. He's got the shortest tenure as a Washington head coach in almost 70 years since Darrell Royal coached 10 games back in 1956, but he left of his own volition to go take the job at Texas. He wasn't fired. So we've never seen a Husky head football coach get fired after this short of a tenure, ever.
Softy, was it just one of those things that Jimmy Lake's personality was not ready for this? I mean, he clashed with the AD pretty quickly. He had the incident with the player on the sideline, which given your perspective on that is either bad or kind of normal in what happens in sports. But what was it that Jimmy Lake just could not wrap his hands around as head coach of that team?
Well, you got to be a leader. You got to be a CEO, right? And you got to be a guy that inspires people and doesn't tear people apart. And I'm not saying that Jimmy was clashing with the AD. I know him and Jen Cohen had, they didn't see eye to eye in the end on certain things. But, Jen Cohen hired the guy, for God's sakes. And Chris Peterson put his stamp on it. He's not getting that job unless Chris Peterson is selling Jen Cohen and the possibility of Jimmy Lake being great at Washington. And in the end, he just was not ready for that type of responsibility. He was not ready for that type of gig, there's all kinds of stories I could share with you. Like, for example, two weeks ago, I'm doing a coach's show with him, the last coach's show we would actually end up ever doing. And I bring up Dylan Morris. And Dylan Morris is one of the worst quarterbacks in the Pac-12. He's near the bottom in most statistical categories. And he had a good ending of the game against Stanford, 2 drives that ended up winning the game against a really bad Stanford team, by the way. And I asked him on the air, I said, for those out there that believe that Dylan may have saved his starting job with the way he played against Stanford, what do you say to them? And he looked at me like I had 5 heads. Like, why would anybody even ask about Dylan Morris? Dylan's doing great. Well, no, he's not. He couldn't even acknowledge the fact that there was a conversation going on about the quarterback. He was too emotional. He was too worked up. He was way too paranoid about certain things. He actually came into our booth before the first coach's show of the year, the week of the Montana game, which you guys remember they lost that game at home to Montana. Mm-hmm. And he just starts lighting me up. He's all mad about a picture I put on Twitter from the press box because I do my show every Wednesday from Husky Stadium because I have to stay there to do the coach's show. So I go on Twitter and I'll post an innocent photo. Hey, look at this great dude. Don't you wish you could be here? Blah, blah, blah. Coach's show tonight, 6 p.m. There's something really, vague, innocuous, harmless. And in the lower right-hand corner of the photo I put out, there's a couple of football players just standing there. And you wouldn't have any idea they're football players. They could have been track stars. They could have been softball players or soccer players. And Jimmy Lake comes into the booth and just starts MFing me, calling me this, calling me that, all fired up and freaked out about me putting out photos of the team in formation and giving away secrets. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? And then they go out and they lose to Montana, on Saturday. And his eye was totally off the ball. He was so worked up and preoccupied with crap that he should not think about or even be worried about. I'm thinking to myself, the whole time this is going on with Jimmy, would Chris Peterson have even cared about something like that? Would Don James or Jim Lambright or even Rick Neuheisel have even cared about something like that? And this guy is just way too preoccupied with stuff that doesn't matter. And in the end, I think it showed, man, and it cost him his job.
I know it's been a couple of weeks since the first move was made. I mean, now Lake is out, but John Donovan had been fired previous to that, which kind of gave you some writing on the wall. But just why was the offense as dysfunctional as it was, Softy?
Well, I just think, first of all, we thought going into the year their offensive line and their running game was going to be really, really good. And that's not just guys like me saying that. There's, national people, Phil Steele, guys like that are talking about how great this Washington offensive line was and how deep their running back room was. And none of that ever panned out. They were not good at all. I mean, it took them like 8 or 9 games to even have a really good day running the football, which they did against a really bad Stanford run defense. So that was a huge disappointment. We totally missed on the offensive line. We totally missed on the running backs. And then John Donovan, look, I mean, the guy had no right taking that job. He was an assistant running backs coach with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now he's basically got the second most important position on the football team, which is the head coach of the offense when you have a defensive-minded coach. And they just went nowhere with him. They got worse as the year went on. They were okay for 4 games last year during COVID, but once they had to come back and actually play a full season, they regressed. And Dylan Morris, the quarterback, regressed. It was unbelievable how bad the offense was. And I don't know how Jimmy Lake ended up with this guy. You know, maybe he was going after the wrong name and putting his eggs in the wrong basket. You know, he wanted Kellen Moore, you guys know, is the offensive coordinator with the Cowboys and played football at Boise State and played football for Chris Peterson. And, you know, they were never going to get Kellen Moore because Kellen Moore is one step away from a head job in the NFL, for God's sakes. Why would he step down to be the offensive coordinator at Washington? So I think that they were stuck. He was really, really, really high on the NFL model, desperately wanted to duplicate the NFL at Washington, and he ended up hiring a guy who had no business being the offensive coordinator for a college football team. None.
Well, I thought that when Javion Sunday from here in Waco went up to Washington and you and I talked, you talked to his coach, Shane Anderson, he would be perfect, a perfect fit. And then when he didn't get to play, I thought, man, they must be loaded. But I look at their running stats, Softy. He's got 4 carries for 6 yards, but their leading rusher has 431 yards in McGrew. Is that it?
Yeah, they're terrible. They're a bad, bad running team. And here's the thing about Javion, man. Sean McGrew, first of all, is your leading rusher. Second of all, he couldn't even get on the field the first 2 games of the year against Montana and Michigan. And then by week 4, he's literally running the offense out of the Wildcat in overtime against California and is the most important position or the most important player on the field during that time of the game. It's unbelievable. They go from not even wanting Sean McGrew to carry the football to counting on him to win the game for them 2 weeks later against California. So they were banged up. You know, Kamari Pleasant got hurt. Richard Newton got hurt. Cam Davis had fumbleitis. And then Sean McGrew, I don't know what the hell they were doing with him early in the year. But Javion Sunday, yeah, you would think for a guy like that, if he can't get a snap, if he can't get on the field, then that must mean the Husky running attack is pretty damn good. Well, it's actually the opposite. And that's another one of those head scratchers where you ask yourself, the hell was John Donovan doing? What was he thinking? Another example of how this guy had no right to be calling plays at UW, ever.
Well, Softy, I mean, I know you said you were going to come down and steal Dave Aranda, but who reasonably, I mean, and maybe it is, but who do fans want to see and who lines up with what the athletic director wants and what the boosters want?
Yeah. Well, I think you're looking for a head coach, first of all. I think the days of going out and hiring a coordinator are over. You know, guys like Todd Monken, for example, at Georgia, may be a more attractive name in the South because of his connections down there. I just can't see UW going after a guy like that. Kalani Sitake, the head coach at BYU, is a guy that's getting a lot of play up here in Seattle. He's 4-0 against the Pac-12, so he obviously can contend in this conference. And this conference, by the way, is not very good, so I'm not sure how much that says. But in the end, he would come here and have a chance to recruit better players than he has in Provo, I think. Matt Campbell, Iowa State, is a guy who's actually from the same hometown as Don James from Massillon, Ohio. And Matt Campbell has a coach on his staff who is the son of Jim Haycock, who used to work for Don James back in the day. So there's a lot of connections there. You know, Gary Patterson's name is getting tossed around, but frankly, I'm not sure if the fan base or the UW would go for a guy who really hasn't had a connection to the West Coast in over, 2-3 decades and is in his early 60s. His name is getting tossed out there. Justin Wilcox from California is a former UW defensive coordinator under Steve Sarkisian, now the head coach at Cal. But the problem with Justin is he pretty much gives you in a lot of ways what you have now, which is a really good defense and a terrible offense. His offense has been worse than UW's in the last 2 or 3 years down there in Berkeley. So there really isn't one obvious name that's jumping out at anybody. And the way these things happen, you guys know as well as me, it'll probably be a guy that nobody's even talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how Matt Rule was, 100%. Softy, for whoever does come take that job, what are they walking into just in terms of, where facilities are, all the check boxes that somebody would typically look at? Talent. Obviously, when guys come in now, the transfer portal can speed up, what would normally take a lot longer. So what kind of a situation do you see the Washington job as at the moment?
Well, the facilities are great. They just redid the locker rooms, the weight room about 4 or 5 years ago. The stadium was redone about 6 or 7 years ago. So The facilities are top notch. There's an indoor practice facility that's right on Lake Washington, literally right next to the field at Husky Stadium. So there's nothing wrong with the facilities. And then from a talent perspective, I mean, the big sell is Sam Heward, number 7. He's a 5-star quarterback at a Kennedy Catholic here in Seattle. His dad is Damon Heward. His uncle is Brock Heward, who you guys know now works for Fox and played in the NFL and played football at UW. And he's one of the highest rated quarterbacks, if not the highest rated quarterback the Huskies have ever had on their roster. The problem is he played the air raid in high school, and he was playing high school football 7 months ago. Literally went from a Friday night in April playing high school football because our season got pushed back due to COVID to showing up on campus on Monday at spring football for UW. So he's really had a big adjustment period. They ran a pro-style system that really did not fit him, to be totally honest with you. And I think the new head coach, if they do go out and get a guy that's an offensive-minded guy, they're going to have to find a way to, fit Sam Heward into the offense because he's the future at quarterback right now for sure.
Okay, I have to ask you this. Since that day in San Antonio, Texas, 67-56, can you ever wipe that off of your body, what you saw as a defensive person?
Every now and then I notice this fungus growing on my back, and I'm reminded that that's the Alamo Bowl. It just doesn't go away. And I don't know. It's like all of us were exposed. It's like the college football version of Chernobyl, right? I mean, we just walked out with just a different, molecular structure after watching that freaking thing. Yeah. All of us in that arena, in that stadium that night should file suit against Washington, Baylor, and the city of San Antonio for being exposed to that. I mean, dude, Dave, you were sitting there with that in that game watching that thing with me. It was depressing. I'm like, you know what? I like offense. You like offense. But that wasn't even fun watching that. I think it was literally nauseating watching that game that night at the Alamo Dome. And then guess what? I go into the post-game press conference with Steve Sarkisian as the head coach. Yep. And I asked Sark, hey, man, tell me about Nick Holt and his future. A lot of folks are wondering if he's going to be here as the DC. He looks at me and he says, Softy, grow up. And then he walked off the stage. And then guess what happened the next day? They fired Nick Holt as their defensive coordinator. So that was the grow-up game for me down there. But, yeah, that was absolutely brutal. And then here's the cool thing, though, about it, Dave. 4 years later, UW is number 1 in the conference in scoring defense, and 5 years later, they were in the Final Four against Alabama. So that just goes to show you how quickly things can change with the right guy.
Well, look, I'll just tell you, if Jimmy Lake lights you up in the coach's show, I don't know if you want a Gary Patterson.
Yeah, you would end up in a fetal position, and it wouldn't be.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You know what? I got no problem with that as long as you win freaking football games. I'll take one for the team. I'll take a right hook to the freaking forehead if this football team wins games. So I got no problem with that. But, look, I mean, it was – and you know what, guys? Honestly, I haven't even told that story on my show in Seattle.
Really?
This is the first time I've even told that story to you guys down there in Texas. And I think it just showed you – it was kind of eye-opening for me, and it just showed you that he really was not ready for something like this, to just lose his lunch like that over something so stupid, and to be a first-year head coach on top of that. Now, Gary Patterson comes in there. He does something like that. Hey, Gary Patterson's 60 years old, been around the game for a long time. He's won games. He's one of the great coaches in the history of college football. I kind of get it from a guy like that, but for Jimmy Lake, you're like, man, you're not Chris Peterson. You're not Don James. You're not Gary Patterson. You're not Chip Kelly. You're not David Shaw. Who the hell do you think you are? And I'm not, Dave, I'm not kidding you. I'm 48 years old. My give-a-damn meter is nowhere near what it was 25 years ago in this business. I almost clocked the guy. Yeah. And I was this close to walking out of the booth after he said that to me. I'm like, dude, first of all, I'm not that dumb. Second of all, there's no way I'm going to go on Twitter and start putting photos of your football team in formation on my Twitter account 3 days before the opener against Montana. You got to think I'm a freaking idiot to do something like that. So it was unfortunate, and we also had a little bit of an off-the-record media session with him in April that somebody reminded me of a couple days ago, where he was dropping F-bombs, he was getting all worked up, he was arguing with people. I mean, you guys probably have done that with coaches where they bring you in, they say, hey, look, we want to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're doing here. When they hired Chris Peterson, for example, Chris Peterson has his Built for Life program, and he wanted to show the media, great, hey, here's what we're all about, here's what we're doing. I'm new. I want you guys to understand where we're coming from. Blah, blah, blah was great. Jimmy does the same thing, and instead of, educating people on what his philosophies are, he ends up arguing with people. He ends up fighting with people in the media. Guys, it's an off-the-record conversation that he's getting into arguments with the press. What in the actual hell is going on here?
God, I love you. I really do.
Good stuff, man. And I know you probably.
But that's what I'm telling you. Yeah. He just wasn't ready for something like that, and nobody could have seen that coming. You guys know Petros Papadakis works for Fox Sports. There's a bunch of games.
Yep.
He's on my show every week, and he had the perfect line. He said, "Look, it made sense to hire Jimmy, and it also made sense to fire Jimmy." And now guess who's on the hot seat? The athletic director in Jen Cohen, because the football team is bad and the basketball team sucks, and now people are starting to look at her, and it's kind of a mess up here. So why don't you just give us Dave Aranda and shut the hell up about it?
well, Mac Rhodes is off limits as well.
By the way,
no combo packages out of Waco.
Stay out of Texas.
Softy, I do have to ask you, I know you probably got to run, but you mentioned Sark, and he's struggling right now. 5 straight losses at Texas, just lost to Kansas. Just your thoughts on his little tenure in Austin so far.
Well, I think it's unfair to judge him after 1 year. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll start recruiting players out of California that maybe the previous regimes did not have access to. Pete Kwiatkowski is a great defensive coordinator, but, how much of a chance have these guys really had to make an impact on that team? Have they signed one player yet by themselves that's playing for Texas?
Xavier Worthy, but not much past that, no.
Yeah, okay. So he's got one guy, right? He's dealing with somebody else's roster. He's dealing with somebody else's philosophy. He's got to retrain all these kids to kind of figure out, what he's doing. So, look, Sark is smart in bringing in Pete Kwiatkowski. That's kind of the opposite of what Jimmy Lake did. To have a veteran guy like that with him is a very smart move by Steve Sarkisian. But I think the tide's going to turn soon for Texas and Sark. I think he's a great recruiter. He's a hell of an offensive mind. He's got access to talent there that maybe he did not have access to when he was at Washington. He's sober. He's cleaned himself up. You guys got to remember, this guy was at the bottom of the barrel when he was at USC. He lost his family. He lost his career. He lost his reputation. He lost his wife. He got divorced. He got remarried, as you guys know. Lost a bunch of money. Lost his reputation. Had to totally start from scratch. Went to Alabama to work with Nick Saban, which we call Rehab U for coaches now, by the way, because Bill O'Brien's there too. But I just think in the end, Sark's going to be just fine. Just be patient with the guy. Give him a couple years before you start going crazy trying to run coaches off.
Thank you, buddy. Man, it's great hearing from you, Dave. Softy, appreciate it as always. Can't wait to see you down the road. Dave Softy Mulder, KJR, Seattle. Big city, obviously a pro sports town, but he is all in with the University of Washington.
Yes,
he loves the Huskies.
Softy's awesome, and you will see him tweeting feverishly about Washington Huskies football whenever they're playing, and almost like play-by-play style. But good stuff there from him, and I had to ask him about Sark as well, given his time around him.
I'm glad you did.
I'm the same way. I like Sark. I like Sark, and a lot of the reason why I like him is because of what he's been through, and because the time he gave us at Big 12 Media Days. So, I might poo-poo on Texas from time to time because that's just been – that's a result of my whole life, basically, growing up in this state. But I'm going to root for Sark. I want him to do well.
All right, from Joey Kelly. By the way, how in the world would Aranda go to Washington? That is not an upgrade for him. And there is that debate, and that's what I told him yesterday.
Who was it yesterday that was said, like, anything outside of LSU and USC just doesn't sound all that realistic. And I would agree with that. I don't see what the move to Washington would really do for Aranda unless he just has some extreme desire to be on the West Coast for some reason. I don't know what else would be the draw because of what he has right now, what he has building right now. It would have to be, in my opinion. I know you could say, like, well, Seattle's better than Waco, and you go all down there. But, at the end of the day, he's a football dude, and I think what he's got and what he's building and what's in store is really good. So it's going to need to be something really enticing, I think, for him to make that move.
I don't think coaches care about towns as much as people like to make it think.
Their wives and their kids do.
Their wives and kids do. But, like, again, also, if you're a coach's family, you kind of know. It's being in the military. You know that, you might like a place, but only get so attached. And that's just the nature of the business, which is unfortunate because coaches get fired all the time and move all the time and all that. But, I think saying like, oh, Seattle's better than Waco or LA's better than Waco or Baton Rouge, well, yeah, but
a little more to it.
To the actual head coach, does that matter as much as the job itself?
Caden Aranda's not going to the West Coast. That's not the way his brain works. Of course, he grew up in Southern Cal. From biscuits and gravy, Joey, there is no way Aranda goes to the zone, that time zone in Seattle. There's a little bit of back and forth, by the way, from Rocky Miller. Sark is just another retread. Well, he is because of what he's been through in his life, without question.
Yeah, and look, if he doesn't turn out to be some great coach, that's fine. I'm just rooting for him, the human being, because of what he's gone through, and a lot of that's self-inflicted. But I do feel like he's somebody who has put a lot of investment into trying to be a better person and overcome his demons. And I appreciate that about anybody who's taken that step. That's a very hard step to take. So the fact that he's even the head coach at Texas after all he went through is pretty amazing, and that's why I want him to do well.
I do too, and you're right.
If he doesn't, he doesn't. But
Jeff Burkhart, he covers K-State, has a podcast, College and Kimball. He'll join us next to discuss the Wildcats in Baylor tomorrow afternoon, and at 4:30 start, kind of a quirky start in Manhattan. And this is 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace. Oh, by the way, there's no home game tomorrow. Baylor's on the road. They've already pretty much headed out to Manhattan. But next Saturday against Texas Tech, yet another early kick at 11 o'clock. And if you are looking for what you want for your tailgating, Waco Custom Marketplace is your option. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. WacoCustomMarketplace.com online. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family has set up a hometown grocery store setting and atmosphere, a local bakery and butcher shop inside of their store, the butcher shop with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. And the bakery, fresh baked bread and kolaches every day. They have pies and much more as well. And up and down the aisles, I think there's like 2 or 3 rows up and down the aisles, anything from Ritz crackers to Rotel tomatoes to seasonings and sauces and much more. To the right, when you walk in the door, cold beer and wine, and also if you want soft drinks there as well. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, where you can get your tailgate food, including charcoal and pellet fuel. Right now, select choice and prime New York strip steaks are on sale. $7.99, $8.50 a pound, and $19.99 a pound for the prime New York strip steak. It's getting cooler. Stew meat, $4.99 a pound. Waco Custom Marketplace, Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman, with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity if people have to pay things off as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Earlier this week, I was a part of College and Kimball, the Kansas State podcast with Jeff Burkhardt. He joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Jeff, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Are you surprised that Kansas State's a slight favorite in this game? I know it's a home game, but Baylor ranked high inside the top 15?
Somewhat. I think what you and I talked about earlier this week, the fact that Baylor has struggled on the road against teams not named KU, I think that plays a little bit of a role in it. But also I think odds makers probably looking at the fact that K-State's been hot here, obviously, over the last month. And I really think that's why K-State's got the edge. But again, normally if you're at home, you're getting 3, and K-State's only getting 1 or laying 1 right now. So I think odds makers have it pretty well dead on, though. This is going to be a dogfight, and it's honestly would be shocked if this was more than a 1-score contest either way.
Obviously, the schedule didn't fall their way as facing tough teams when you got to face Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, the first 3 rattles out of the box. When you're K-State, how much of that team that lost those 3 games still exists inside the one that's red hot right now?
It honestly appears as if they put it all behind them, and I just really think they just needed to get the 1. You know, that's just one of those things. It's like a shooter in basketball who's on a cold spell. He just needs to knock down that 1-3 to just start to get the momentum going. And you've heard no talk in the Veneer complex about the first couple of conference games, what was going wrong offensively, defensively, what they were like when they had to roll Will Howard out there at quarterback against Oklahoma State. There's just been no chatter about that. They put that in the rear view, and this team, it's very coach speak-esque, but they truly are taking it one game at a time, and they are focused on the here and the now. If you ask anybody about what happened against Iowa State or what happened against Oklahoma when they couldn't force a punt, I think they wouldn't pay much mind to it. I think they're locked into the way that they're playing right here and now, and that's just really manifested to the level of confidence that we see them going out with here these last couple of weeks.
What have you thought about the way Skylar Thompson has played since the injury earlier this year? He's been back for a while now, but not running the ball as much. Just what have you seen from him offensively, and just he's clearly the missing piece, right? I mean, this K-State team without him is an entirely different thing.
It absolutely is. And there's a little bit of an infight amongst fans about what Skylar Thompson is, what he can be. And I'll just say this. He is a terrific college quarterback, and really it's fortunate that fans were deprived of essentially a full season of him last year. He gets knocked out in the Texas Tech game just, midway through the third game of the season. And a couple of years prior, when Bill Snyder was still head coach, he and Alex Delton were in a quarterback battle that, frankly, a lot of people didn't think really needed to happen. It was very apparent that Skylar was the guy who should have been getting the lion's share of the reps, if not all of the reps. So fans have really been deprived of a lot of Skylar Thompson. He is a tremendous talent, and I think it just took him a little bit to settle in this year, but he's really turned into one of the more dynamic passers, really, in the country. He's sixth right now in yards per attempt and passing efficiency. He's hitting over 72% of his throws. He's in such rarefied air now, too. We're talking about a guy who's really putting up better numbers just in terms of a completion percentage than Jake Waters, Josh Freeman, and I know going back a ways, Michael Bishop and El Roberson, those two played in a much different time in this offense and whatnot. It was back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. If you were hitting 55% or so of your throws, you were a pretty solid quarterback. But yeah, for Skylar Thompson to do what he's been doing here in recent weeks, it's not shocking to me. And he's obviously got a great complement in the backfield and Deuce Vaughn to help stress defenses and really open up throwing lanes for him. He's just been terrific, and obviously to go out on a high note here coming up on his super senior day.
Well, I gotta say, we hear Michael Bishop's name casually thrown out. Yeah. That's the first time I've heard El Roberson's name in a long time.
And he was fantastic too. Yeah, he was. That's two great names in Kansas State. Jeff, history. The three losses. Kansas State got kind of hit with the schedule kind of just right out the top, right in their face. Oklahoma State on the road, Oklahoma, and then Iowa State at home. Nobody in the conference, not Oklahoma State, not Oklahoma, and not Baylor, is going to have any of those three teams that are on their schedule, and everybody plays them, will come out of that unscathed. How much do you feel like that their record is deceiving because of just what I said there with those three back to start the conference schedule?
Timing is everything, as they say, and I think honestly, if you flip flop, if you move Oklahoma later on in the season, or even certainly Iowa State, the way that they've kind of wobbled here in recent weeks, it was really unfortunate that the way that it shook out. And the other thing too, K-State fans were pretty bullish going into that Oklahoma State game, even with Will Howard. They had just come off of a pretty decisive victory of a really good Nevada team out in the Mountain West, and they thought with Oklahoma State kind of wobbling the way that they had in the early part of their non-con stretch, they thought they could go into Stillwater and get a win, even though K-State's only won one game in Stillwater since the year 2000, and Oklahoma State smacked them in the mouth, and they've got a darn good defense down there too. I guess I'll say this. I don't know if the record is super deceiving, just because while I did talk about Skylar Thompson being, an exceptional quarterback, and it's unfortunate that Caleb Williams has taken off the way that he has, because honestly, Skylar might have been running for potentially first team all Big 12. It might have been a stretch. Gary Bohannon, obviously, as you guys know, has put up tremendous numbers as well. But the limitation of him not being able to run, this is a guy still at this point in his career has over 1,000 yards rushing, and to have that element of the game taken away. I think if K-State had that, had Skylar Thompson been fully healthy, I think K-State would have had a chance to potentially steal a couple, if not all three of those games, and potentially be undefeated. I think that might be a bridge too for some, but we've seen what a difference that he can make. So I just knowing what we know now about him having obviously needing to deal with the injury, I don't think the record is super deceiving. K-State's offense is somewhat limited without that extra dimension of him being able to run the ball. They have struggled at times trying to just go hat on hat and just open lane straight up for Deuce Vaughn or Joe Urban, whoever it may be. So without that added threat, I think, this team is probably right where it should be. Had Skylar been healthy, though, the entire way, yeah, I think potentially an 8-2 or a 9-1 K-State team could absolutely be on the table.
So earlier this week, we were talking a little K-State, and we got some background on Felix Anudike-Uzomah and kind of how he came to be. But, I mean, golly, going from playing in a handful of games last year as a true freshman to now being number 2 in the country in sacks, top 10 in tackles for loss, top in the country with 6 forced fumbles on the year. I mean, what kind of rare air is he playing with? You know, K-State's had a lot of great defenses, but the turnaround from just last year to this year, what's the talk been like surrounding him?
Everybody knew he certainly has the measurables. When you look at him and you just see the length that he possesses, the overall size that he brings to the table, he certainly has the body, and he's definitely one of those first guy off the bus types. And fans were very bullish on him coming into the season, and frankly, defensive end was a position where K-State was really loaded with Bronson Massey and a guy they lost earlier in the year who was really supposed to be the catalyst in this 3-3-5 look. Khalid Duke got taken out by a chop block in that aforementioned Nevada game. Felix Anudike was really going to be probably more the secondary piece here, but he really just came onto the scene. He had a big breakout performance, had 3 sacks against Southern Illinois, and everybody kind of ho-hummed at that effort. You know, it's a 1AA team, and Southern Illinois is a fine 1AA team as far as the Mo Valley goes, but nobody really paid much attention to it at that point in time. And then K-State they enter that murderer's row facing arguably, you know, certainly 2 of the best teams in the Big 12 right off the bat, and then you face a very experienced Iowa State team, and everything wasn't just nothing was really meshing at that point in time, and Felix Anudike was held in check at that point. But then all of a sudden things just really take off, and I'm sure everybody's seen the big play when he blew up the play against Texas Tech to get the safety, when the guy held him down and he still got 5 yards in the backfield and tackled Sharadrick Thompson for a loss there. And really that's just kind of where he took off. And then TCU just pretty much forgot to block him the entire day in that game in Manhattan when he I was going to say he ended up with 4 sacks, and that's one thing K-State fans will chirp quite vocally about because he should have ended up with 6, but there were 2 forced fumbles in which the ball went forward. In the NCAA, the way that they score that is when if the ball goes past the line of scrimmage and is recovered, it's technically deemed a run. So he lost 2 sacks there. He should have had what would have been an NCAA record-tying performance in that game against TCU. But again, he's up there with the likes of Darren Howard, a guy who was just wrecking teams back in the late 90s for K-State's defense when they were coordinated by Phil Bennett, a guy your guys are familiar with. And he will have the opportunity to play on Sunday. Fans obviously hoping he sticks around Manhattan all 4 years, but quite frankly, I'd be surprised if that occurs, especially with the way that he's been performing as of late. He has just been a one-man wrecking crew.
So, Jeff, Baylor has struggled on the road this year, which I'm sure you guys are well aware of. That's like a big question mark for them just over the course of this season and certainly heading into tomorrow. But tomorrow is senior day. You got K-State riding this win streak. It's going to be Skylar Thompson's last hurrah. You've got a top 10-ish team coming into town. What's the atmosphere and kind of the excitement level for tomorrow?
And not to bring it back to the point that Smokey brought up a little bit ago, but that 3-game skid at the early part of the season was so deflating for so many fans. It's unfortunate that there are still quite a few tickets left on the secondary market right now for this game, and students are heading back early for Thanksgiving break. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't look like they're going to have a huge crowd on hand. I mean, I would expect in the neighborhood of 40,000, but that's still leaving close to 10,000-ish seats open for this game, which it's unfortunate because, as I said, this is a team that's playing its best football of the season right now, and you have a very dynamic Baylor team coming in with, you know, the best 1-2 punch in the Big 12, arguably, and Abram Smith and Gary Bohannon. You got a defense that's rock solid at every level. And honestly, though, the other thing too, and I don't know why, and I think some of this kind of harkens back to a discussion that I've had amongst friends and whatnot. When we think about Baylor, I'm in my mid-30s. I remember watching Baylor growing up. I remember those just deplorable Kevin Steele and Guy Morris teams. And I think that negative stigma still really surrounds and it stays with a lot of the fans that are my age and certainly the older fans who got to watch those teams roll into Manhattan or K-State go down to Waco and smack Baylor around. And it's unfortunate that people really haven't realized that Baylor has really done such an exceptional 180 in their own regard for what they have and where they were not, just 10, 15 years ago and where they are now with what they turned around, having 3 terrific hires and say what you will about off-field incidents with Art Briles, but football acumen, you can't really question it. But with Briles and then Matt Rule and now with Dave Aranda, it's unfortunate, but I just don't think Baylor really moves the needle as much for K-State fans as it probably should. Really the only big-time game against Baylor that I can remember K-State fans really showing up for was when RG3 came to Manhattan in 2011, and fans were really jacked up for that game. But right now, I think fans just look at this. This is a good Baylor team. This is a quality team. But I think the fact that they're just sitting at 8-2, and K-State itself has been eliminated from Big 12 title contention, it doesn't really have the type of buildup that you would want to see. I think we'll still have a pretty entertaining football game one way or the other, but the atmosphere from K-State perspective, I don't think you're going to see the same type of juice that they had when Oklahoma rolled into town earlier this year. Fans were obviously out for blood in that one, obviously with the news of Oklahoma electing to go for greener pastures in the SEC. Fans really wanted that one, but I think we're going to take a couple ticks down in terms of the intensity we'll see at Bill Snyder Family Stadium tomorrow.
Jeff, keep up the great work. Great to hear from you again. Thank you for being inviting me to be a part of your podcast as well. Thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks again, and hope we have a good one tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that the Big 12 is moving forward with what they have coming up in the summer of 2023, and also that they have proven with this season that the conference is more than just one name or two name, at least so far.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I asked the question about the crowd. That was interesting to hear. I'm sure it'll still be raucous, still be a tough place to play, but not quite to the level of what you thought it might be. And that's kind of surprising, I mean, for K-State fans to still look at Baylor that way. I mean, I can understand if you don't keep up with the news and you think that they're still like the 1-11 Matt Rule team or the 2-win team from last year, but damn, I mean, they're 8-2, and that's not a bad thing. One of Baylor's biggest victories in history was beating a top-ranked Kansas State team in Waco just a few years ago.
Turned that season around.
I mean, it turned the whole program around, quite frankly, and there was that. I mean, the fact that last year they won 2 games and one of them was K-State.
2010, they beat Kansas State to become bowl eligible for the first time in 16 or 17 years.
Yeah, they've had some big moments against K-State, so I kind of find that a little bit surprising. I mean, I can understand some people's mindset because they think of Baylor a certain way, but, man, I feel like they've had some big moments against the Wildcats, so that's interesting.
But a battle because of the holiday, and there are some that are leaving early.
I didn't think about that either. That definitely comes into play.
Yeah, sometimes people just get a thing in their heads, and that's what they think of. Some people think of Alyssa Milano as the girl from Who's the Boss, and that's not who she is anymore. So
not even close.
It's just one of those things. So yeah, things grow and change. I'm surprised. Kansas State
she's
fans,
a Twitter crazy, right? Isn't she the one that's?
Yeah, she went to the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court thing, and I remember I'm thinking at the time, like, I understand you being on a side of an issue, but you're an act like. Is Alyssa Milano going to move the needle on this thing?
No.
For some people, an actor says something and they take that as gospel. It's the bizarre. It's so bizarre.
The fourth lead from Who's the Boss? I mean,
that's who I get my political opinions from, Paul. I don't know about you. Is the fourth wheel on Who's the Boss?
I still hear from Janet. What's her name on Brady Bunch? What was the name? Who were the name of the girls on Brady Bunch?
Cindy.
And
let's say.
I listened to the
Marsha.
The girls from Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Marsha, Jan,
Marsha, that's who I meant. Yeah, Jan, that's right. It was Jan. All right, when we come back, we got a couple of minutes to look over an article today in theathletic.com written by Ari Wasserman. The story of this says, we don't have that hanging over our head. Which new Big 12 member stands to gain the most in recruiting as they will be accepted into a Power 5 conference? We'll come back and touch on that. And Caden Grace, Marsha on the Brady Bunch. And much more to come. Sikkim 365 Radio at 365 Sports. Black Friday sales event continues at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. I'm going to get to a couple of deals, but I saw this on their website, allensamuelsdcj.com. Free appraisal on your vehicle. You know about the shortage of pre-owned vehicles. They will give you top dollar for your trade-in, even if you don't buy a vehicle with them. Call or text Morgan Williams to schedule a quick 15-minute appraisal appointment at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Black Friday sales event continues. The elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock. 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or limited. Total values of $3,500 or 0% financing for 72 months going on right now and no payments for 90 days. First responders get an extra $500 in cash. Meanwhile, the J.D. Power. We told you about the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality. Dodge brand finished second to Ram. They have both. And, of course, 2021 Jeep Gladiator rated first among all mid-sized trucks at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And also the Ram truck. Always something great with that. Let's see, what is it? The Ram truck. Right now, 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Get total values up to $7,250 or 2.9% financing for 72 months. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer or orders Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's Margaritas and Mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
So today, Ari Wasserman article on theathletic.com. It's a paid subscription. It's the only one that I pay for as far as outside of being a part of Sikkim365.com. We don't have that hanging over our head anymore, discussing the 4 Big 12 teams and which will benefit the most when it comes to recruiting. Houston, he has 1. UCF at 2. I would say number 3, Cincinnati, and he has Brigham Young at number 4.
Well, I mean, when you look at the talent states, Texas, Florida, Ohio all have, a lot of recruiting and good high school football talent. So when you put them in a Power 5 conference, it would stand to reason that would tick up.
Brigham Young, since 2002, has landed the most blue-chip prospects, 19 of them, of the 4 schools who are joining the Big 12. Now, that spans almost 20 years. So that says something. They do seem to have some great players that go to Brigham Young as well, go on to play in the NFL. Cincinnati is 3, is that what I said? Houston 1, UCF 2. And I think all 4 will benefit, but that's interesting that he wanted to put them in order.
Yeah, no, I think all 4 will certainly benefit. I mean, that's why they're making the move. The benefits across the board, from more money to more eyeballs to better recruiting to what have you, and to what extent they can take that and the Big 12 can take that. I mean, that remains to be seen and will for at least a couple more years. But, I mean, that list makes sense. I think it's kind of even splitting hairs because I think they're all going to see a boost. And I don't think any of them, though, are going to see some boost that just takes them to, like, some, stratosphere that, surpasses what's in front of them already in the conference. But, yeah, it'll help make them as competitive as possible sooner than later. And we heard from, I think it was Kalani Sitake when he joined us a few weeks ago, about how just saying you're in the Big 12 now has already made a huge difference in talking to recruits. So that's good. That's what you would want it to do, and it's good to see that there's some positive momentum in that regard.
All right, so that's the story. If you want to, if you do get athletic.com, that is one. Now, the young man, Jared Casey, who caught the 2-point conversion, the story about he had not taken an offensive snap until the game against Texas. It was a great throw by Daniels. It almost had to thread the needle through a couple of different players. And here is Jared Casey. He got an NIL deal with Applebee's.
Jared Casey, you just made one of the greatest game-winning catches in Kansas football history.
That was Jared, wasn't it? That was Jared.
Where are you going now?
Where am I going? I'm going to Applebee's. After I made the catch, life has been pretty great.
Here you go, Jared. Your 2 entrees and an appetizer from the Applebee's 2 for $22 menu.
Hey, you always got to go for 2.
I love it.
It's so cheesy, it's perfect.
That's great. It's a takeoff of the Super Bowl, right? The MVP going to Disney World. So good for him.
And his mom looks exactly like I would picture her for some reason. Like just hearing her voice and then seeing that's who I believe it was. I was like, yeah, that lines up. She was so sweet in that video, and it was, like her reaction to the I suppose the father, pointing out that it was him initially, and then they had to see him get up off the ground to make sure, and then once they realized it, like that was just such a cool, genuine, real moment, and I love that, and good for him. That's what NIL, could be at its best, is little things like that. Like, hey, nobody knew who this guy was or his name or anything about him really other than his teammates and his family. And, now he's doing an impromptu Applebee's ad because of a game-winning catch. I think that's awesome, and I would love to see more like that in terms of NIL. That's where you could hook me, like just me and how I am. Instagram posts, I'm probably not going to see it, nor am I going to buy anything because you said to on Instagram. I'm just not going to. The influencer crowd has no influence on me. But that, I mean, it's not going to necessarily make me go to Applebee's, but I'm on board with that. Like, I like that a lot. And so I hope we see more things.
Craig, who among us hasn't been suckered in by a Kylie Jenner makeup tutorial?
I mean, it's fine if like some UCLA basketball player or something is posting like, hey, buy these Nikes on Instagram or whatever. I'm just saying for me and my age and what I'm like, it's not going to do anything. But seeing that, I'll laugh and maybe I'll go to Applebee's as a result.
It'll put them on my radar next time I drive by them. Baylor men's basketball at home tomorrow, noon against Stanford, a pretty good test there. And the women on the road against Maryland, number 5 Maryland. Baylor, of course, women in the top, I think it's 6. Good test for Nikki Collin and her team on the road against another very, very good program. That is on Sunday. When we come back, we'll hear from Sam Bradshaw breaking down Baylor and Kansas State. Now, at 5:20 or so, we're going to replay the interview from yesterday. Todd Berry from the AFCA on so many golden nuggets about college football. It's amazing. Good enough to run it again, and we'll do that after Sam Bradshaw.
Yeah, and you might be thinking like a replay, but, I mean, there's so much that I hadn't even thought or considered and so much I had no idea about as far as the conversations that are going on behind the scenes with, current coaches and their leaders about rules changes, transfer portal, all that good stuff. So a lot of the kind of outside the lines of the field storylines touch on pretty much all of those from the coaches' perspectives, and they're not all happy with the way things are going right now.
I agree with you. There's a little bit of the mid-season coaching changes. Mid-season coaches going to another staff, like the Joey Maguire. He gets into that a little bit as well. And this is 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. Healthcare the way it should be. Getting an MRI used to be time-consuming and expensive. After spending hours at an imaging center waiting, and sometimes waiting months to get your appointment, to find out what it had to cost, and it blows you out of your mind as far as sometimes your budget. Not anymore, even if you have insurance. IdealMRI.com, located in Waco in the Central Texas marketplace. Worth the drive because every MRI is $497 or less, and they'll help you with the insurance cost. $497 or less every single time. No long waiting line. No huge room where the speaker blows out 20, 25, 30 names before your name is finally called. That's what they do, MRIs. State-of-the-art technology MRI machine, a great list of Texan specialists. Dr. Rob Maxey, also Al LeBlanc, great people inside that building. They'll get back in touch with you quickly and tell you what the MRI said or what it showed, what the evidence is of what is torn or something ripped, and then get that to your doctor. So, and when your orthopedic surgeon or doctor want an MRI, you say, hey, I want to use IdealMRI.com.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating the Black Friday sales event. Ram, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With a new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $7,250 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500 and no payment for 90 days at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA Golf, they've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Looks like a busted play here. Williams in trouble, and he'll just throw it up and picked off. Al Walcott.
It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sick'em365.com. Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sam Bradshaw with us on Fridays and S11 on the site, also on Twitter, breaks down the games, the X's and O's, analyzes the Baylor game in Manhattan against Kansas State. Sam, thank you very much. Kansas State, pretty much what they've always been, except Skylar Thompson is not as much of a running threat as he used to be.
Thanks for having me on. And K-State is they've made a few changes schematically, and they're a bit more of a handful than they usually are. Defensively, they've gone to more of that 3 safety, keep everything in front of them, but ask a lot more of your D-line look that you've seen from Iowa State, and it's made a big difference for them. Before, you could kind of tell that with their 4-down looks, you could find some easier stress points in coverage to break them, or you could crease them in the running game a little easier if they played coverage. Here, they're doing great limiting the run. They're limiting big plays. You can get some passes underneath on them, and you can get some mid-range play-action shots on them, but they get a ton of tackles for loss. They get a ton of sacks. They disrupt you. They keep you from landing haymakers on them. Their defensive evolution over the last year has made them a lot tougher to handle. And offensively, their skill talent has kind of come to its own. Not only is Skylar Thompson playing better than he's ever played in terms of being a passer, but they find really good ways to get Deuce Vaughn, Joe Irvin, Phillip Brooks, and Malik Knowles opportunities to use their speed. And I think Kansas State, in addition to producing a ton of 20-plus plays as a percentage of their total plays, I think they're 5th nationally in just those absolute backbreaker plays of over 50 yards as a percentage of plays. If you look at teams that have played at least 4 games against power conference opponents, They are explosive. They hit you with a ton of gap schemes, which is a decent departure from what they had under Snyder, where the diversity of run calls wasn't all that big, but they just formation you and they use the quarterback a lot more. Here, they're finding different ways to pin you down, pull guys around, formation you, and it's a pretty difficult offense to keep your handle on. They don't get the notoriety some others do because they keep the drive count down, which keeps their total yardage and total points down. But on a per drive basis, this is one of the best offenses Baylor's going to face. And Bears have a tall order in Manhattan on Saturday.
Where do you think Baylor's offense can exploit them the most?
Well, first and foremost, if Kansas State doesn't find some ways to cheat a little bit towards the base wide zone runs, they'll have some trouble with Baylor. What I saw with Oklahoma's tape against them is Oklahoma's zone run really gave them fits, and Oklahoma was able to complete 82% of their passes against them because they were able to hit some of those play action shots, because they were able to hit underneath. Kansas didn't have anywhere near the same success, but a lot of that was their tight ends missing a block, or they had a bad snap here, or the fact that they injured two of their quarterbacks and guys were hitting ground balls for some wide open throws. What I saw on film there indicates that a lot of what Baylor does offensively should translate. I just don't see it coming with the base wide zone because I think K-State's defensive coordinator is going to be smart enough to take that away. And they'll probably have a game plan for that, and they'll have a game plan for some of Baylor's favorite little wrinkles they do to counter how you can be aggressive to that. So Baylor's going to have to come in with a few things they haven't seen before, possibly wait to debut them in the second half. Because you're against a good coaching staff, they'll be able to camp out on some of that stuff. And frankly, against Oklahoma, it was the adjustments to what Oklahoma was doing that ultimately won the day. Whether it was getting Gary out on the edge with some of the motions they were doing to get an extra blocker at the point of attack, or even on Abram Smith's long run, a lot of the quarterback run game that they built off of their base run. You look on Abram's long touchdown run, the linebacker to the play side, he jumps out looking like he's going to take Gary if he keeps it. And Baylor had the tight end come across, capture the D end so he can't crash, and Abram Smith's off to the races.
Sam, I know that Oklahoma had some flaws going in, but just in terms of the way Baylor played, especially the feelings coming off of the TCU loss, the Joey Maguire turnover, the game plan that they had, the way they played, how physical they were from pretty much start to finish, is that one of the better efforts you've seen from a Baylor football team in a while?
It was a really good effort. I don't think Oklahoma's what they've been, but anytime you can go in against Oklahoma, a top 10 team, and everybody on both sides of the field is leaving that stadium going, one team pushed the other one around, one team's bigger, stronger, faster, better, and that team's you, it's certainly a really good day for you. Anytime you do that to any top 10 team at any point in the season. So that was a great one. I thought they did a good job with their defensive game plan. They put a lot on their defensive interior guys to really limit the escapability for the quarterback and pass rush, but also against the run. Several of Oklahoma's draws were just absolutely blown up because they put those big interior guys. One of them would be over each guard and playing each side of him, and really controlled in pass rush, but also really looking to just limit things against the run, almost two-gapping in that regard. And it gave Oklahoma fits because they couldn't get guys down for those easy play action shots. And Lincoln Riley had some things to go against some of what Baylor's zones were, but they could just never really get there because Baylor was blanketing a lot of the stuff they were looking for. And if you can't really run the ball and they're not having to do anything crazy to bring guys down very soon, it limits how well your play action shots can work. And Oklahoma ran into a wall on Saturday.
What I love about this Baylor team, at least, well, there's a lot of things to like. I don't know about love, but like. We know about the running game. We know about Bohannon's efficiency and, of course, the defense. But to me, week in and week out, I think Power had one bad punt in that game with TCU. Week in and week out, the punt team, the kick team, the coverage teams, what Hankins delivers. I know he missed a long one on Saturday. I like and what Ebner brings to the table. K-State used to win special teams under Bill Snyder every game, basically. That's what made them not just good, but great. Do you feel like Baylor has an edge there?
Well, Kansas State's awfully good on special teams, and if you don't believe me, ask West Virginia. They they got torn apart by them in that regard and turnovers. But no, Baylor's special teams units have been outstanding this year. I mean, when 90% of your kickoffs are going for touchbacks, that's huge. It takes the opposing return man effectively out of the game. Your punt coverage has been outstanding. I mean, you really haven't allowed yourself to get anything blocked on your end. You've got great return efforts out of Treston Ebner, and your field goal kicker is probably the best season I've seen a Baylor kicker have in quite some time. You know, you can't say enough about Baylor's special teams units, and the fact their coverage units are so good is one of the reasons I'm picking them this week against Kansas State, because, you know, Kansas State blew out West Virginia, but when West Virginia gives you multiple turnovers and you block a punt and you get another short field off of a punt return, you know, without that equalizer there, I think Baylor can pull away there. It's going to be an absolute dogfight, because I do think West Virginia is one of the toughest games on the schedule for them, including several of the tough teams they've beaten already.
Isn't it interesting how I thought they were going to be pretty good, Kansas State, and here they are. Except that schedule flipped on them with what they had to play those consecutive games against Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State as well.
Sam, Christian Morgan, I'm not sure what his availability is. Obviously we don't hear a whole lot about injuries with Aranda. That's just kind of the way that it is, but he got banged up last week. If he's unavailable to play, how do you feel about what they have at safety and how that changes things or not?
I like what they have athletically and Devin Neal behind him, and it's the guy that just needs to see some more time on the field. And you've got an experienced guy that's a little undersized in Jared McVay. This would be a great week to have Christian Morgan, though. You're talking about a Kansas State team who got a guy that was a massive recruit, could run a 4.4, 40-plus inch vertical, 6'5", 260 tight end. Immatter Bebe, I think is his last name. He's been able to house a 60-yard play for them a couple times this year. They got Wheeler, who's one of their backup tight ends, who's a really interesting size speed matchup for him. A guy like Christian Morgan would be a good matchup to have in your back pocket against those guys. So you're hoping that the guys that are stepping in could do a good job there. I mean, Kansas State, with the exception of a big back just to get those short yardage gains, they've got a really, really good offensive roster. They got a good line. They got multiple options at tight end they like. Skylar Thompson's a dual threat quarterback that's playing really well. They've got exciting guys in Irvin and Vaughn at running back that can split out at receiver. And then you got Malik Knowles, Phillip Brooks, and a couple other receivers they really like. I mean, their complete offensive roster, it's going to take another good game plan to stop these guys. Honestly, I'm more worried about them breaking an 80-yard play on Baylor than I was Oklahoma.
Thank you very much.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
Felix Anadike Uzama, I was just curious what you thought about watching the film on him and just what kind of a beast he has turned into after, just playing a little bit as a true freshman last year.
Yeah, he has turned into a much more productive player. I mean, I think he's leading the Big 12 in sacks, or I'm not. I think he's one ahead of Iowa State's Will McDonald. And similar to McDonald, they're benefiting from a scheme where you're forcing teams to take the checkdowns and you're keeping everything in front of them. And you can really disguise things, force the quarterback to hold it because he's not sure what he's seeing. Whereas last year it was 4 down. They had a lot easier time deciphering what's going on. It's given him a little extra time, and he's making the most of it. He has made some good tackles look foolish, and it's going to be a challenge for Baylor this Saturday.
All right, you said you had him picked to win. Thank you for your time, Sam. Appreciate your time. He picked Baylor. He just all week long mentioned he was favoring K-State, but then the special teams, maybe the slight edge there, despite the fact that K-State special teams are always very, very good.
Yeah, I'm going with Baylor, and I've picked against them a couple times this year, so I have no problem doing that. I understand their struggles on the road, but my reason being is that I think while home field will play a factor, and it has for Baylor, hitting the road all year long, that's the thing they got to get over. I feel like they kind of turned a corner last week. I think the mentality of what they dealt with the Joey Maguire stuff and the TCU loss, and then the way they were able to just kind of get all back together, smooth all that out, go out and play a terrific game against Oklahoma. I think they know, especially after TCU, they knew after Stillwater, but they really knew after Fort Worth, like, you guys have to change it up on the road. Like, there's no reason to not play better on the road. So I think that they know that. I think that will be a focus, and I think they're going to be locked in tomorrow. I'd expect them to play really well. I expect K-State to play well and for this to be a great game. But I'm going Baylor because I just feel like that win over Oklahoma is maybe just changing the mindset a little bit, if that makes sense.
I agree. You hope if you're a Baylor fan. Otherwise, the roller coaster, although it's been a very exciting start to the year, or not start to the year, the entire year at 8-2 with 2 games. They got to finish now. Got to learn how to finish. When we come back, Todd Berry, American Football Coaches Association. He replaced the great Grant Taft. He is now the executive director. We had him on yesterday. I just thought it was time because of all these midseason coaching changes that have surged to a number we had never seen before. I thought it was time because of Joey McGuire headed to Texas Tech, and obviously the fact that he wants some of the players that had committed to Baylor. That's his job. I thought it was time because of just the way college football has been the last year and a half with the NIL and transfer portal. And my God, did he give us an amazing amount of nuggets. And that's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street here in Waco, a hidden gem. Look, if you've sent a message to our text line, you find out where they are all the time. It sends you right back to it. They've been the sponsor of our text line since day one. They've got a selection of spirits out of this world, whether it's vodka, gin, whiskey, whatever it is, especially the high-end bourbons they have. Pinhook, Weller, Bardstown, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, all those available at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Craft beer rotates through the seasons. Right now, it's about to be the winter brews. If you're into the winter brews, right now's the time to go walk in that great walk-in fridge, see what they have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Plus, their customer service is second to none. And if you don't want to get out of your car, go to the drive-thru window, and believe me, you're done lickety-split. And even if you don't really know what you want, you're like, I bought this thing the last time, the bottle is blue, and it's this. They'll probably be like, oh, that's this. It's on, I'll have it in 2 shakes. And they have it, boom, right there for you. And you're on your way home and ready to have a good old time this weekend. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. When your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 5 o'clock hour starts with Todd Berry, the executive director of the AFCA, located in Waco, but of course nationwide. Todd joins us as he has before on Sikkim 365 Radio and also YouTube's 365 Sports. Todd, thank you very much. I know your schedule's got to be completely crazy busy. I just saw where Petrino in Idaho, he's out. What are your thoughts, and what is the thought, and what are you guys discussing about so many coaching changes happening so early in the year now?
Yeah, and good afternoon. Thanks for having me on. There's certainly, I actually did an interview yesterday with another industry on this subject matter, and yeah, certainly we've never seen this many at this point in time. I know that many of the athletic directors have suggested that they want to do this so that they can get ahead on the coaching search, and yet we've got not very many that are very far along on their coaching search. And if they're actually trying to assist the coaching search, you think they'd be further along than where they're at. And obviously they're doing this for recruiting purposes. But yeah, it's a question. I think there's a few things that are probably going to come out of it. One is the fact that I talked with conference commissioners today about potentially looking at the early signing date, about some of the impacts of the early signing date. I think it's been very good for the student athletes. I think it's been good for our coaches. I think it's provided some clarity and transparency to the process. But maybe that date's a little bit early, and if we push that date back, maybe that, if some of these accusations are true, maybe that would allow our coaches to try to be able to finish up the season. And then the other thing, obviously, I think is we're in a new world right now in terms of the name, image, and likeness, and all the one-time transfer and the transfer portal. And so this could be a byproduct of that. And that's, difficult assessment, I think, for any athletic director to make in relation to how many players are going to transfer out of the program at the end of the season. And so maybe they're trying to get ahead on that, and so we probably need to address that matter also.
That was going to be my next question, Coach, in that how do you, again, if you push signing day back, that's one thing, but the one-time transfer, that can be kind of a fluid thing of guys leaving the program throughout the year. So that's almost like a moving target you guys would almost never really be able to hit, would you?
It'd be difficult. One of the things that we've argued for as coaches is, let's create some windows. If a young person's unhappy and wants to leave, or they want to, one of the things the coaches are obviously concerned about is that there's no player on your team is safe now with the name, image, and likeness because it's too easy to go out and buy a player. And so consequently, we're probably going to see an uptick in the number of transfers. But if there were some windows to suggest that, it's during this time frame that players could enter the portal, they've made their decision. They might have made it earlier, but this is the first time that the portal opens. That might provide a little bit more clarity, I think, for everyone in the process, and force some decisions to be in that moment to where coaches and teams sometimes forget the players that are left on a team and how a transfer can really impact them because it's outside of the signing dates. And so then you're not able to replace that player, and especially if you've already hit your 25 limit in relation to the FBS number anyway, in terms of the number of scholarships that you can give out in any given year.
Todd, you've run a program as a head coach, and you saw a couple of weeks ago Joey McGuire and the story about him moving to get the head coaching job at Tech because they had lost Matt Wells, or he had fired Matt Wells, Texas Tech had. What's the precedent there about in season an actual assistant coach taking over in another program in which you're going to play in 2 or 3 weeks? And what are your thoughts about that one?
Yeah, obviously that's difficult. Matt Wells was a very, very good friend of mine from Sallisaw, Oklahoma. Known him for a long time. And Joey McGuire is a wonderful hire there at Texas Tech. And I've known Joey for, probably 15, 20 years now. And, just a great coach. I know he'll do a great job. But these are obviously difficult in season. I hate that it happens. But in the same sense, too, Kirby Holcutt, the athletic director there at Texas Tech, he did kind of what I said at the opening of this call is, he let a coach go, but then he hired a coach so that they could get ahead on recruiting. And so he did follow through with his rationale for making that move, and I can't fault Kirby for that. I don't like these moves again mid-season, but in the same sense too, I kind of applaud Kirby for at least not using the excuse of recruiting.
Now I get the impression that Joey wants to be as far away from Waco as possible, not this weekend, but next when they play Baylor. I really do. And I've continued to stay in touch with him because I've known him. But what would your thoughts be if all of a sudden he showed up on the sidelines with headsets?
I don't suspect that that's going to happen.
No, I don't either.
So I hate to. Joey is just a tremendous person. He wants to always do the right thing, and I know, and so consequently, I'm not too worried about that.
What about when you do move mid-season and you do have then the recruiting, because you want to get a jump on it, the thoughts of what it's like to start cherry-picking commitments that you help commit to other schools?
Well, that's always been a question forever. That's partially one of the reasons why, coaches at one point in time were hired for some of those connections. That's against our code of ethics as coaches. Traditionally in the past, when those things have arose, then they would have to appear before our ethics committee annually. And other reasons why that actually ended up happening. But now, obviously, we have the NCAA has put together in the last couple of years the IAWP legislation, which is the individual associated with the prospect. And so, if a coach does have a association and goes to another institution, then it limits some of those capabilities for those individuals to be contacted. Obviously, if the young person is interested in another school, then they need to be contacting some other person rather than the individual that they had that association with at the prior university.
I don't think most people would know that, Coach, that rule exists. That's pretty interesting, because most people automatically think, okay, our coach is going to this school, he's going to take 9 of our recruits automatically, because they love that guy and not us. So it's good to hear those kind of things that you guys do, and you have an ethics process involved. I think a lot of people just don't know that about your organization and what you do.
Yeah, that's something that's been longstanding, probably 5 decades worth. I think it was founded about 50 years ago. The ethics committee was, and we push hard with our coaches in relation to understanding those rules and the ethics that kind of revolve around some of this. And obviously we received some help from the NCAA a couple of years ago with the IAWP legislation, because that further penalized both the coach and the student athlete. Now, again, we're not trying to keep the student athlete from making good decisions. They just don't need to be connected with that coach. They need to be connected with another coach.
Todd Berry, the executive director of the AFCA, American Football Coaches Association, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Todd, it sure seems like there's just so many different issues floating out there. Are you busier now in terms of dealing with various issues than ever before, or is it really the same and it just seems like maybe to the outside that you're dealing with more than ever?
No, I think you're completely right. I was talking with an FBS commissioner today about that very issue, that never in our time frame have we ever seen the number of, I think, really, really critical decisions that need to be made in the next few years, and how fluid the situation is right now. From us just coming out of a very, very difficult year with COVID, and many of the questions that revolved around the NCAA leadership at that point in time, and now you have the NCAA going through a governance question about what is their mandate, what should they do, what do the universities want them to do? And in the backdrop of all that is the Supreme Court ruling, which went against the NCAA 9-0. It basically told the NCAA you probably shouldn't be involved in an awful lot of these things. And so that gets down to, is the NCAA the right organization for the whole membership, or maybe just partial parts of the membership? We certainly have these players transferring all over the place, and I know that people are throwing out stats right now. But the problem with all that is that the NIL deals were not until this summer, and so nobody had the opportunity to go out and recruit with NIL opportunities. I had a coach here the other day that's got a tremendous quarterback, a young quarterback, very happy in his program. He called me, and he had a question. Want to know what an answer was. He's got this young person has done so well this year. He already has an NIL deal, but now the corporate entity that's sponsoring him in his NIL now wants him to move to a bigger marketplace. And these are all things that the coaches felt like these were the things that needed to be addressed on the front end of this, and nobody kind of wanted to talk about it. But these are things we knew that were going to happen. I had another coach here about a month ago call me, and he's got a rogue booster who's going out and promising all these young people NIL deals. And these are young people that basically the coach doesn't even feel like can play at his level, nor are they ones that necessarily wants because they don't fit in the system. And he was told by his athletic director president to leave it alone because this booster is important to the program. These are all things that went on during the 70s before all these rules kind of went into effect, and why the rules were in place. And now we have basically boosters out there buying football teams, and maybe sometimes the ones that not even the coaches want.
That's crazy. That is insane.
Wow, man.
That is insane.
You are right smack in the middle of the state of Texas where you're building, but I know you represent the country, the American Football Coaches Association, but you're also in the territory of the Texas High School Coaches Association. What are your thoughts about a high school player now leaving early, even if he does graduate or whatever? Was that something that was brought up much with the Quinn Ewers story to Ohio State and giving up his senior year of high school?
Yeah, Joe Martin does a wonderful job there with the Texas High School Coaches Association. Very dear friend. We talk often about some of these issues. We do deal with our high school coaches. We have a number of them, especially here in Texas, that are a part of our association. I try to represent them in relation to the NCAA interests when I'm in Indianapolis. This is going to be one of these things that is part of the NIL conversation that I think, again, as coaches, we worried about. We mentioned 3 years ago to all the people that were trying to get NIL passed that be prepared for some of these outcomes. And there was no question that it was going to float down to the high schools and in these scenarios. And quite honestly, while we'd all like to do something about it, the courts have pretty much ruled on this. And so this is the world that we're in. It might kind of get sleazy and disgusting at times, but that's kind of what everybody decided at that point in time. That's what the courts ruled upon. And so consequently, this is what we get out of it. And it's discouraging. You'd like to see those young people finish. Now, I do think that another thing that's coming out right now that we're seeing is certainly if you're a collegiate coach, and I go out and sign a high school player, and he becomes a great player, well, then he's at risk of transferring. And so that then suggests that maybe a transfer that's a young transfer might be a better option for me, because if they transfer in, then I have a chance to develop them, because they can't leave because they've already transferred once. They could still leave, but would have to set a year. And so consequently, that I think further elevates the desire to get into the transfer portal. One of the, I am talking about the coaches recruiting the transfer portal. Why take a high school player that's unproven when I'm going to get a collegiate player that's more proven and will stay with me? And that's something that we don't want. We love our scholastic recruiting model as coaches. We're the last one out there. Every other sport recruits off of AAU teams and club teams and so on. But, we want our high school coaches involved. And one of the things that our high school coaches have done in response to this, in order to make their players more marketable, is they're having them graduate early, which I hate, but I also understand. They're basically saying, hey, graduate in December, and then that way at least you could be competitive with a potential transfer player, because you'll at least be there in the spring too. And so when they're when they're competing for that one scholarship, they need to have all of the options and availabilities they can to be competitive against this new transfer market that we're looking at.
Well, there's a lot of basketball coaches that have kind of abandoned the scholastic model unless they're bowled over by someone. And yeah, I mean, Coach, I completely understand your concern in that if football coaches start going that way, that's going to be kind of troubling.
Well, yeah, I hate sometimes whenever we've tried to stay away from the basketball model. I'm not apologetic about saying that, because we've been very, very we have suggested all along that we love our scholastic model. We believe that college is about academics, and this is not about very few are going to have a chance to go on to professional football. We hope they all have a chance, but the reality of it is that is not going to happen. Only 2% are actually going to have an opportunity to do it, and then they only last an average of 2.7 years in the league. That's not a career. That's a good time. And so there has to be something more out of this that they get. And as coaches, we believed in that, and we believe in the academic model. But quite honestly, with NIL, I think, and with the transfer, because those two together are the real problem, because now everybody on your team is basically in the portal at the end of this next spring. And why would they not be? Because they can either stay at the place that they're at, or they can explore their NIL opportunities and see if they can make more money at another institution. And so this next August, I fear that many of our coaches are going to be sitting around going, man, I just lost 5 offensive linemen and I don't have anybody to replace them. I can't even hardly practice now because I've already used my scholarships on other positions back in February. Thus, again, the window that needs to happen between when players can decide they want to leave a program. When should they have that opportunity to have the free year or the free waiver in relation to their upcoming eligibility?
I'm with you, because like all of a sudden you're in spring ball and your quarterback just decides like, all right, I'm out of here. I mean, I'm going to go to USC or something. I think a window makes a lot of sense. Todd,
then the other thing on top of that real quickly is you lose your starting quarterback. Now your opponents are all looking at that second team quarterback going, you know what, that guy's got significant value to me now. Not necessarily that I feel like that he can play for me, but I don't want to play against him. And if I can take him, then all of a sudden my opponent now is down to their third team quarterback.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Window definitely makes a lot of sense. Todd, I know that about a month ago you were quoted in talking about flopping in college football and looking at the ways that maybe that could be curtailed a little bit. What's that discussion been like? And also, are there any other rules out there that are kind of in the target of your institution's focus right now?
Well, the feigning injuries is still a problem. And what we wanted to see last year and what we asked the NCAA to do was to do something about it. Obviously, they're the rulemaking process, and this was unanimous amongst our coaches that this was a problem. I think any kind of in-game suspensions are going to be problematic, because we certainly don't want a player getting up to make sure that he doesn't cost his team a timeout or something like that when he's injured. And we certainly don't want the officials making a decision about whether a player's injured or not injured. And I think the appropriate way to do it was kind of what we ended up with, is for the universities to go back and review that film with the conference office and let the conference offices then decide, hey, how long was the player out for? This looks suspicious. I was at a game recently where all of a sudden 2 players just fell down at the exact same time. And it was whenever the other team was trying to snap the football, and they were, neither one of them were in the previous play, involved in the previous play. And those are the kind of things, that's not what we want. That's certainly not what, our coaching community wants. It's bad for the game. And so we need to do something about it. But to me, that's the way to do it, is to punish after the fact. And, what our coaches have suggested in those kind of situations is that coach that's responsible should be banned from the next game, and those players should be banned from the next game. These are egregious in our opinion, and the only way to handle them is to get very punitive with what happens. I think the other thing that's out there that I think it's time to review a little bit, our coaches appreciate the targeting rule. It has changed the game. It's been a good rule. Our coaches are still supportive of targeting. But in the same sense, too, we're at that point, I think, where we're at critical mass. The numbers really haven't changed over the last 3 years because the behaviors have changed. We've only got 6 players in FBS football that have 2 targeting penalties this year.
What?
Only 6.
Really?
Yes, only 6 have got 2 targeting penalties during the course of the year. We have none that have more than that. In FCS football, which has about the same number of players, there's only 5 that have 2. That's as of this week. And so consequently, you have to look at some of these things and say, these are really, if something's malicious, a player launches, he hits a defenseless player, then our coaches have all been in support of, yes, let's get rid of him. Matter of fact, we're the ones that suggested when a player has 3 during a year, then he needs to miss another game. That came from the coaches. And so we are in support of this rule, but we do think at this point in time, any of these, we appreciate probably more than any, because we played the game and we coached the game for so many years, how fast all of this happens. And this is a very, very significant penalty to this part of that game and potentially part of the next, or maybe or if it's in the third case, another game. And so these are really significant penalties. And so consequently, we just think that this needs to be looked at. We've suggested targeting 1 and targeting 2 to like basketball, to where, the ones that aren't egregious, that aren't malicious, then those become a 15-yard penalty, and the player is allowed to stay in the game. But we still, if there's helmet contact, then we still want the 15-yard penalty, just like a face mask. Now, I don't know where that's going to go. I've been working on this for a while, and I think that probably the better compromise right now, it appears, based off the people that I have talked with about this, which are basically commissioners and football oversight and so on, is to maybe suggest that, targeting becomes one of those things on the first one that you have during the year that you miss maybe that quarter and the next quarter. And then you're back in for that second half or the first half of the next game. But these are really significant penalties. I think it's very, very frustrating. I still don't know that anybody can tell you what targeting actually is. And we've been going after this for a number of years now. And at some point in time, I think you have to kind of take a step back and maybe suggest that we need to take a hard look at what this penalty is and the consequences of this penalty, if we still can't decide what the penalty actually is.
Todd, I know you've given us more time than I asked, but you coached in Louisiana, obviously at UL Monroe, and I think you went against Baylor back when they were making that climb up the ladder. But how much, and did you ever go against Ron Roberts, and or when Dave Aranda was in assistant coach when he was in, I think, Delta State or whatever it was? How often did you get to run into them?
I didn't ever go up against Ron, but I did go up against Dave. Yeah, he's absolutely really good. They are such a fun team to watch. They play the game the right way. They're just they're fast, they're physical. You can tell they just enjoy really playing the game together. And so it's a joy to watch them. Dave's just Coach Aranda's a wonderful man, and you want to see those wonderful people in our profession succeed, and certainly he's done that. And they're exciting to watch. And he's obviously very, very good. Bader's good on both sides of the football, and that makes them a very, very dangerous football team, especially when we look at the national landscape to where, some programs are really good on offense, but maybe not good on defense or vice versa. I think Bader's a very, very well-rounded team. Maybe when you look at the balance of those top group, maybe the ones that is the most balanced out of all of them.
Todd, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it so much on your plate. Good luck with all that, and you're doing a great job. Todd Berry, American Football Coaches Association Executive Director, with us on 365. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 to wrap up the week with Baylor, K-State tomorrow, and the best national game, perhaps Ohio State, Michigan State. Sick on 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Most of you know by now that supply chain challenges have made cars and trucks hard to find, but General Motors has announced in some good news that production, while it's slowed, is ramping back up and cars and trucks are coming. So now is the time to contact Richard Carr to get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they are being shipped. You can drive a new car or truck sooner when you get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list and get your car or truck first as they arrive. If you're looking for a pickup, well, check out the Sierras from Richard Carr. Ideal combination of power and strength, refinement and luxury. Sierra is the best truck on the road. If you're looking for a roomy SUV, they've got the lineup of Buick SUVs offering various sizes and versatility to fit every lifestyle. Or maybe you're looking at a combination of sophistication and power. Well, then that means you're looking at a Cadillac XT6 or a Cadillac Escalade. Cars and trucks are coming, so again, call or contact Richard Carr online with what you want and let them get you on their inbound vehicle list and get your car or truck before anyone else. And if you're looking to save and drive today, Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. They all go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and with dozens of lenders, Richard Carr's goal is to say yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. So for those of you here in the greater Waco area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 coaches who took themselves off the hot seat for now. Number 5, Neil Brown in West Virginia. I know that they've been up and down. I know that us all West Virginia fans maybe don't feel this way. But for right now, you can cool the temperature on his seat because he's managed to, with a team without hardly any offensive weapons, get them to the point where they can win some games. And they've won some games that nobody thought they would win this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine for right now, but I need to see something next year. I mean, if I don't see some type of massive improvement next year, then I think that you really have to kind of start to wonder what's he gonna really do there. Yeah, I mean, they're a good middle of the road Big 12 team right now, and good's probably even putting it on a little too heavy. They're an average Big 12 team in the middle of the pack right now, but they are capable and talented enough to, on a good day, jump up and bite you. But they got to figure out the offense. And what that's going to look like moving forward. O-line needs a lot of work. Quarterback, that's a question mark. And, even a Letty Brown hasn't been good this year.
I try to remember him. He has done nothing.
He's done nothing.
Yeah.
So, just the offenses, I mean, they always have great receivers or guys who are fully capable of making some plays. But, yeah, they got a lot of work to do, but I do think he's safe for right now.
Either West Virginia or Texas this weekend will be out of a bowl.
Yep, it's a bowl off. Whoever wins is sitting in a position where they got to win their last game, and whoever loses is done. They're not going.
Letty Brown has 11 rushing touchdowns, though. They seem to be quiet, 751 yards through his 10 games.
All right, number 4, Philip Montgomery at Tulsa. Early in the year, rocky, and they've kind of picked it up. It has not been a banner year for Tulsa, but I also think that that's not a job where I think you just have one bad season, they get rid of you. Just a couple years ago, they were in contention for the conference crown. And their conference is about to change immensely, and I think keeping Philip Montgomery would be a good thing there.
Been kind of like this with
but that's how Tulsa is, no matter who the coach is.
It wasn't last year the year they had the dramatic year. But they've been up and down, but it's not like you see sustainability. They're going to win 8-9 games in a row, 2-3 years in a row.
So they're 4-6. They were 6-3. They were 4-8, 3-9, 2-10, 10-3, 6-7. That's what he's done so far, Philip Montgomery. So they had that bowl game the first year, 10 wins that second year, and then a bowl game last year, but 2, 3, and 4 wins in between. So I mean, it's definitely been an up and down roller coaster. But yeah, they don't have the same type of. Like, they're not USC or Texas or Florida. So I think that they realize, hey, if every couple of years he gets us to a bowl game, maybe that's all that matters. And if so, then he's doing his job.
Yeah. And again, the conference is about to change. You could hit the accelerator.
Well, if they don't take full advantage, Tulsa's set up to be one of those teams that should definitely benefit from some of the teams that are leaving, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, Dino Babers at Syracuse. Really high on the hot seat, but they've got some okay wins this year. They've got some bad losses, but I don't know if you're Syracuse if you just want to do this right now, unless you're just, and I think he's taken himself off. He's got some good wins this year, and he's moved down the list. He was very much in trouble very early in the year, but he's gotten some wins after some bad losses early in the year.
Syracuse with the great names in the history with Zonka and Jim Brown and Floyd Little and all them, but haven't been good, really good. He had 1 or 2 years early.
They're 5-5.
Went away from a bowl. NC State, Pittsburgh, though, 2 top 20 teams.
Yeah, I don't expect them to go bowling or beat either of those teams. They could, and if they do, just win one of those and they are going bowling. And yeah, you would think he'd safely be off the hot seat. It's not a job I pay a whole lot of attention to, quite frankly. And I don't know enough to know what the feeling is like about him up there. But yeah, depending on I guess how he finishes, it looks like just at least being in contention should be enough. The biggest thing though with Syracuse is you're going to if you were to fire Dino Babers, who are you going to go get?
Yeah.
With 15 other jobs open, and not a wide pool of candidates to begin with, I mean, who are you really going to go get that's going to be better than Dino Babers in the long run? Maybe they have that answer, but yeah, it makes sense if he were to stick around.
It was 2018 they had a 10-win season, which is not too far in the distance, although in this day and age, last week seemed like a distant future.
Yeah, and
distance past.
And this next one is just on the benefit of being on a 3-game winning streak, which could turn into.
By the way, you mentioned Philip Montgomery and Dino, both former Baylor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, same staff. This one is on the benefit of, after what was a terrible 5-game losing streak, a 3-game winning streak now for North Texas and Seth Luttrell off. I think you can, even though they're probably going to finish 5-7 if they beat FIU this week and then lose to UTSA, which most people would expect, but on a 3-game losing streak and beat UTEP last week. So I think Seth Luttrell maybe has moved himself off that. Yeah.
Good for them. With Phil Bennett, defensive coordinator, a good friend of the show. And
yeah, I mean, they need to beat FIU to get to at least 5 wins to make it respectable, make that UTSA game interesting. But, yeah, I mean, again, another job where, okay, you're going to get rid of Seth Luttrell and do what?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? You can go hire some big name. Who are you going to hire? So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And, I think next year, though, he's playing on the line enough that he's going to have to, show some continued progress and can't really afford to have the start that they had this year, be a continuation. But, yeah, I would think that their rebound has probably saved his job for right now.
And here's a story. Again, Dino Babers, Syracuse, 2021 make or break season for Dino Babers. We'll see.
And I might be wrong on that one. I just think that, again, and maybe he didn't take himself off the hot seat, but the rest of the college football world did for him. And
how about this name that just popped into this interview? Sterling Gilbert. Sterling Gilbert is the offensive coordinator. Remember how Texas just slobbered all over him.
Oh,
when
yeah.
He was,
while they were yes, I remember very clearly Texas fans and media bashing the ever-loving S out of Baylor at every turn and then turning around after, bashing Art Briles over and over again, going to hire one of his proteges in the same moment that they were bashing him and what a scumbag he was. They went and tried to hire Art Jr., basically, because they couldn't hire somebody with that last name to do what they really wanted to do, and then it failed miserably. So, yeah, I do remember that very well.
Yeah, sent the president
on a Lear to
go get Sterling Gilbert. Why? Yeah. Because he was under the Briles tree, and that was the only reason why. That was the only reason.
Yeah. I actually hardly coached with him for very long at all.
Yeah. He was way down the chain of, direct connections, yeah.
Yeah. And number 1, Mike Norvell. Beating Miami last week takes him square off the hot seat. And look, even if he splits the last 2 games, as long as that split is a win in Gainesville, believe me, his seat is ice cold. If you beat Miami and Florida in the same year, after all the things that have gone on, you have made progress. So, they could beat Boston College tomorrow. I'm not expecting them to on the road, but they could. Florida
by then they might
up.
They feel like they're out of gas emotionally. Yeah.
So if he gets the 2 rivals in 1 year, take him off. I know Deion Sanders is making noise about being a head coach, but that will probably, if you're Florida State, Deion Sanders will always probably be an option for you. I mean, unless he winds up being the head coach at Alabama one day, Deion Sanders is probably an option for you. So that's always going to be on the table. So you don't need to just react because he wants a head coaching job right now, because they could have done that when they hired Mike Norvell, because they hired him there, interviewed him at the same time. So there's the top 5.
All right, I like it. I do like it. 2 former Baylor names, Paul's favorite program at Florida State. Armstrong Sims, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Tomorrow, who's producing tomorrow? Who's doing the show tomorrow? Armstrong doing the show tomorrow. Jack McKenzie, his brother Zach was here earlier today as well. It was good to see him. Hayden Bumpus was here for just a little bit. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, high school football playoff games all throughout the state of Texas. Week number 2 of that. We're back at tomorrow at 2:30. Is that right? Our pregame at 2:30 for Baylor K-State. And we'll also look at some of the results.
And
we'll have our Big 12 predictions. Well, some of those games are going to be over, but we'll have a couple of the ones from later on in the day.
Yeah, we probably need to make it a point to get to those next week. It's early on, but should be a good game, and we'll talk to you at 2:30.
Thank you to our incredible sponsors, to those of you who are a part of the chat, text, phone calls, and whatever else you do with social media. I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports, sick of 365 Radio.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.